I'm here. How you doing, brother?
Hey, buddy, I'm doing good. Colonel, you there?
Yep, got you loud and clear.
How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
In there, hanging in there. We're all curious on what your thoughts are in the coming weeks. we're all we're all we're all curious. We'll go ahead and get started right now because I know that you're short on time. So I think you responded to someone. There were some refueling uh aircraft that was going out towards the transatlantic. I think there were six of them. Did you have a comment where you said that there'd be more of them out there, or they'd have some buddies out there,
Yeah,
or was that someone else?
no, that wouldn't me. I generally don't comment on something that's operational like
I
that. So,
gotcha.
not that I won't comment on the situation or what I think,
Right.
but
So yeah. So I guess my question is for someone who we're waiting on Mark. He's not here yet, but for someone who
okay.
hasn't served, there's been some interesting uh, I guess press releases or I'm not sure how it's getting out to Twitter, but it's always the we are going to respond at a time and place of our choosing, and then it
hmm
gets into the whole operational plan gets out here on Twitter. Um, you know, how does
hmm
how does that kind of work exactly?
Well, that's actually one of the biggest errors that this administration's making. I mean, every time they do that, it's called telegraphing. Just like in boxing or anything
Hmm.
else, that's close combat. If you telegraph what you're going to do, you're probably going to get some people on your side killed, and that's exactly what happens. And it's really pissing me off, quite frankly, because their operational and communication security is just in the toilet, you know. And every time they do that, that is increased risk to an American
Right.
somewhere, you know. So it's not. My point is to answer your question. It's not working the way it should be working. Is that the military operational folks keep their mouths shut, go about their business, and the foreign policy types like Tony the idiot Blinken
Right.
uh, uh, talks in very general terms, and that's the opposite of what's been happening. As a matter of fact, I don't know if y'all noticed it, but it seems the Secretary of State is really the Secretary of Defense and is in charge of military operations in this country. That should scare the hell out of
Yeah.
you.
What's your take on this? What do you think is going to happen in the next week or so with our response? Do you think it's going to end with that response, or do you think it's going to widen out what's already happening in the Middle East?
Well, the time for an overwhelming response to reestablish deterrence on these punks, especially the Iranian-backed militias, all the Hezbollahs around the world, uh, primarily in Iraq and Syria, was the very first time.
Hmm.
And we didn't do anything for a long time. And then when we did something, we knocked out some kind of weapons cache or something. And I don't know if you noticed or not, but targets are getting
Yeah.
evacuated even
Right.
now as we speak. These guys are telegraphing and leaking our stuff, and the targets are getting evacuated. So you're not able to kill the people. Look, you can take out equipment all day long. They're not going to run out of it. As you could see in Gaza, they're not running out of
Right.
rockets. Yeah, even now, they're still able to shoot some rockets. And Israel has pummeled the hell out of that little patch of
Right.
ground. Okay. So they're not going to run out. Uh, the way you reestablish deterrence, though, is you kill them and take their stuff up, break their stuff in an overwhelming fashion, and say, if you do it again, it's going to be even more deadly, and we're going to come after you. But that's not the only piece. The really bad part about this is there's no economic piece to re-strangle Iran, the maximum pressure campaign. I think that's what it was called under the Trump administration. Had Iran so strangled, they could not afford to do it from a financial
Right.
perspective. They couldn't spread money around like this. And dumbass Biden opened the floodgates to the money, and here it is. The first thing they do is October 7th when the floodgates really open.
Right.
And I think that without a first of all, the overwhelming response piece, the horse is out of the barn already, but you could still try it, but you've got to put that financial strangulation back on that economy. You may have seen some of my open recommendations are
Hmm.
look, overwhelming response until you destroy these militias and their capability. And I mean, you go after them till you got them done, like we did ISIS under Trump, okay, in northern Syria, until they were finished. But at the same time, you have to do something to Iran. My recommendation is take their navy off the battlefield, destroy it. There are two Iranian Navy ships, intelligence and surveillance ships out in the Gulf of Aden and the southern Red Sea that are giving targeting and survival information, protection information to the Houthis
Right.
that are firing missiles at commercial shipping. We're not doing anything to those guys. We should take every Iranian ship afloat off the water permanently, destroy them at the same time we do this other operation. Now, but you have to combine that with a reimposition of the maximum pressure campaign, or it won't work. It's going to continue to happen.
Right. It seems we have a bad problem right now
Yeah.
of actually sending them money before something bad happens.
Not just that, but we're sending them messages
Right. S
of,
s
to warn them.
no,
To warn
no,
them.
I know. Yeah, I
It's
know.
laughable.
Yeah.
It's laughable. And nobody in their right mind like me wants to go to war again in the Middle East or anywhere at this point. We've been in this endless war policy for 2.5 decades now, or more, and it's ridiculously ineffective. As any thinking person, especially people schooled in the art of warfare in the United States, really do know. But we have a president of the United States that is either not being advised well or not listening. And I think it's probably a combination of the two.
Right. Now, do you think, from what I read on Twitter and some other places, it seems like they're not going to have a direct attack or any sort of military deployment with Iran, but do you think they're going to contain it to Jordan and areas of Syria?
Iraq and Syria, I
I'm
think,
sorry, is it Iraq and
and
Syria?
yeah, and what small pieces of Jordan that may apply. That base. There's an air base and that outpost that got hit the other night that are kind of up in the very Jordan, the top of Jordan right there is like a corner. It's a little
Hmm.
less than 90 degrees. So they're pretty far up north. They're close to the Iraqi and Syrian borders and everything. So I doubt there'll be anything happening uh, in Jordan unless they've got some targets there that they're 100% sure of. But honestly, I don't really know. But they'll definitely be going after Iraqi militias in Syria, no doubt about it.
Right.
But
What?
but again, it's just more tit for tat plinking if we don't do an
Right.
overwhelming thing and go after something Iranian and the best least escalatory. If they're worried about escalation, I don't think we should be worried about that. To be honest with you, is to go after the Navy because they're out on the water, most of them, except for the submarines. They've got a bunch of submarines that we have to be aware of.
Hmm.
And so it's not going to be like a one strike deal if they decide to do that. None of these should be. But I got a feeling they're just gonna do a one strike deal and say, yeah, we did it, and then you're gonna see more attacks.
Right.
Yeah,
What is
which is stupid.
No, definitely agreed. What's your understanding? Because I think the military was stronger, built better under Trump. We're not meeting our current goals. What's your understanding? Do you think that we have in the backdrop, Biden is scared that if there's a escalation, we're not prepared for it, or is our military, even though we're not as strong as we were, we're still prepared for something with Iran and something wider?
Leaving the readiness piece of it aside for a second, the Biden administration and the Obama administration are behaving almost identically. They telegraph their military operations so the enemy knows they're coming. They protect their stuff, protect their people, to live to fight another day. And they do it for the same types of reasons, the same reason that we still have troops there and don't need to. Those troops don't really have a mission. Tell me a mission that they have. Is it to defeat ISIS? I don't think so,
Right.
because ISIS is effectively gone. It's an ineffective. If there's anything left of it, it's ineffective in that part of the world. And I'm not so sure I buy the ISIS pulled off the Soleimani memorial service the other day in Iran and killed all those people either because of that. So they're not there to defeat ISIS like the public statement said just yesterday. So anyway, to get back to your question,
Mm-hmm.
the Biden administration is behaving exactly like the Obama administration does. They come at it from an idealistic perspective instead of one of realism in national security and foreign policy, and they're going to continue to behave this way. They're not going to change, and because of that, the military, the U.S. military, is weakening. Not from a capability perspective. Look, our capability is the best that's ever existed on the planet. To
Mm-hmm.
be honest with you, uh, but it's from but none of that capability is worth a damn without a good force that's highly trained, has good morale, that trusts each other, and that's why all these things like critical race theory and the DEI are so bad for any organization, but especially for the military. Because you know what? If you've ever talked to an infantryman that's been on the line in any war, and I've talked to them all the way back to World War II, 100% of them tell you, "Look, I wasn't there risking my life for my country. I was fighting for the guy next to me." Okay,
Right.
that's what they think about when they're out there doing that job. And if we are we are training these kids not to trust each other because of skin color, for God's sake, or because of their sexual choices or whatever. Uh, that's what critical race theory and queer theory and gender
Mm-hmm.
theory, all of that does. Okay,
Right.
is it teaches that one set of people is oppressed and the other is oppressor, and nothing can change that. Is the worst part about it. That's just crazy because they are breaking and have broken the national security military team that's supposed to bring violence to the enemy and get each other back home alive, because we're teaching them not to trust each other. That's number one from that. And I don't know if you guys realize it, but the Biden administration has done that on steroids. They asked for another $114 million for DEI just in this last budget. Again, when we had 20 something amendments eliminating it, trying to eliminate it from the military, including the personnel positions in the
Right.
organization. So, but it failed. That effort failed. So that is causing a readiness issue with the troops. The other thing that's causing a readiness issue is the focus on training. The focus on training in this armed force since June of 2021 has been on finding white extremism in the U.S. Armed Forces, which is minuscule. Okay, I
Right.
spent 32 and a half years in the military, from enlisted to full colonel, and I can't even count on one finger how many times I came across a KKK member or a white supremacy person or anything like that. Not even on one finger in 32 and a half years. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, because that kind of crap always exists, especially in the military. The McVeighs of the world and those kind of people are always going to be around. It's up to us to find them. But this organization has been training its people to focus on that, on finding that and rooting it out when it's almost impossible, because it's effectively rooted out already and has been for decades. Okay, in spite of you being able to find one or two every once in a while, and the same thing with racism, discrimination. All of those things have been effectively defeated 20 or 30 years ago in the U.S. Armed Forces, and all of this new focus on training people under DEI and critical race theory and wokeism, that all takes time. And where does that time come from? That time comes from operational training, where you're learning how to, and you're training how to find, fix, and defeat the enemy and return home alive with your equipment, so you can do it again on America's behalf. That's where that time comes from. So what you see is the Heritage Foundation's readiness report that they put out I think it's every couple of years, maybe every year. They put it out in the spring. The U.S. Air Force, my service, had its lowest readiness rating that it's ever had in the recorded history of that report. The current chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, C.Q. Brown, a black guy who I know and is a great fighter pilot, I've flown with him in formations and in mission packages and those kind of things when he was the leader, and he's a great guy, great guy. Should be a great chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, but during the Black Lives Matter thing, he lost his ever-loving mind, and he instituted all of this DEI, CRT, Marxist-based stuff onto the U.S. Air Force. And the report from last spring from Heritage is the scorecard. That's the report card on him, is where that is, and our readiness is in the tank. And it's because, if you're focusing on these things that don't really matter, like what I just talked about in your training, all of that training time's coming from something, and the something is always operational training based on the combat mission that your unit's supposed to do, whether you're a supply squadron or a battalion, or if you're an infantry battalion or a fighter squadron or a bomber squadron at the tip of the spear. All of those units have to have operational training, and I'll let another question come in here in a second. But and the case in point on that is you're hearing some kind of rumint coming out of the camp that was struck, and the 3 soldiers were KIA. It's things like, well, I think they misidentified the drone as a friendly when they should have identified it as an adversary and shot it down. You're hearing things like that, or you're hearing things like, well, the camp commander had designated a soft-sided tent as the transit tent, so for people incoming and outgoing before they were put in permanent quarters. Permanent's relative, okay, but those permanent quarters would be sandbagged or HESCO bunkered in and hardened, so to speak, because they're getting attacked all the time.
Right.
And you're hearing the rumor that these 30-something people were in the transit tent, in a soft-sided tent, and that's why we ended up with 3 dead and so many high injuries, and those kind of things. So you're hearing stuff like that, and that kind of validates what I said about readiness, and it kind of validates for me that I might just be right about all of this training to go on these useless things that don't really matter is being taken away from operational training. And I've only done this for a few years of my life, and that's exactly what happened in the flying community when you had all this weird training that would be required to be done. Those hours came from flying training, and the flying training in a flying unit that's where you learn how to attack the enemy and defend yourself against his resources and kill the target and come home. So that's
Right.
what I think. That's what I think's going on. And look, most of the people that are my peers are 3 and 4 stars now, so I don't have much direct contact with anybody that's on active service that I know very well. But those that I do, they give me indications that that's what they think is happening too.
Gotcha. And if people haven't listened, we had a great space with the Colonel. How long ago was that, you think, when we spoke about 9/11 at the Pentagon? What do you think? 8 months ago, maybe?
Yeah, around last
Yeah.
September, I think.
Yeah.
Either shortly after.
Yeah. That was a great space. James, I'm going to go to you, and then I'm going to come down to Kevin for some questions for the Colonel.
Yeah, quick question, Colonel. Don't our drones have IFF transponders? Like, wouldn't this have avoided that? And then, don't we have procedures in place for if the IFF fails, like in the close proximity of our bases?
Well, one of the open source intel reports that I'm seeing is that this aircraft had some type of electronic warfare capability or electronic countermeasures capability. And one of the things that a good electronic countermeasures or warfare system is capable of is spoofing, is to make it look like there's more than one target, or maybe send a signal out that makes it look like it's a friendly. And those kind of things. And with all the equipment that we've lost in places like Afghanistan, that the Islamist forces have access to now, that wouldn't surprise me if they had figured that out. But that's also another indication, and the biggest one, that the Iranian Republican Guard Corps, which is who runs their military, okay, They do that on behalf of the Ayatollah because that's how he stays in power, is through them. They're not. I mean, they say they're special forces. They are. But they also run the military. They keep everybody in line and get them training and equipped and all that stuff. That tells me that the Iranian forces are in direct contact and directly operating these drones for these little Hezbollah militia units that are going around firing them. If they in fact, and we do find out that they in fact did have electronic warfare or countermeasures capability on that drone. So that's a possibility, and that's why it could have been spoofing itself as a friendly. And also, look, things break, dude. And sometimes the IFF breaks, and it's my understanding they had one of their drones out already, and it may have been coming back in, and this thing shattered him and got right up close to him, and turned all of its electronics off. So it would come back in with a friendly, and maybe the friendly's IFF broke, and all they were doing was painting their primary target, which is what painting the aircraft itself with a radar means the primary target, and they didn't have the IFF target to look at, and it shattered and came out in that way. I don't know for sure, but those are the kind of things that you're hearing coming out of the AOR, which tend to turn out to be about 90% fact when you figure out what really happened, and talk to people and see the investigation and everything.
Yeah, thanks, Colonel. It seems at least from looking at Telegram and on Twitter, it seems that there's been an uptick, especially once the Ukraine-Russia war kicked off, of serious drone warfare. I'm not sure what it was prior. What was your take on drone warfare prior to it kind of becoming mainstream? Now that we've seen it on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit more than a casual observer of the Ukrainian-Russian war on the battlefield, and I don't just look at Telegram. I've got other places that I look at videos that are coming out, especially coming out of the Russia area and the Ukraine front lines. The Ukrainians more about 3 or 4 months ago and earlier than today. I'm not seeing much on the Ukrainian side now, but one of the things I noticed is what they call cope cages on the tanks and the armored personnel carriers and like the Bradley fighting vehicles, all the armor vehicles put these cope cages, which is basically a metal screen top over the top of the hatches and everything. And if you look closely at the Israeli footage of the tanks going into Gaza and everything, you'll see that they've adapted their tanks with these cope cages too. And what that is a defense of is these small drones that carry like they're 1 or 2 bombs, but they can be precision guided,
Right.
or it's a drone with explosives on it, and it's what they call a suicide drone, and it's precision guided because they have IR, GPS, and an operator that's watching with his eyeballs going into the target and everything. And these cope cages are designed to prevent those little bombs they drop or the suicide drone itself from getting down into the hatches and trying to penetrate that or hurt that armor on top, which is usually thinner. It's my understanding. I'm not a tank or armored personnel carrier, but that evolution of a defensive piece of material and tactic is something that when I first noticed it and I watched the Russians and the guys talking about it on their channels and everything, I'm going, And then I started looking at the drones themselves. And man, the Ukrainians, especially with our money, they've been buying these little drones. They're made out of cardboard.
Right.
I mean, they're buying them in the thousands, and they can carry bombs or be a suicide bomber, and they're all precision guided. So there's been a definite explosion, so to speak, not in the detonation sense, but in the widespread of this technology. And the numbers of them have dramatically increased. And I think it's, the cope cages are one indicator, but it's dramatically changed the battlefield because they're really hard to spot, especially if they're made of cardboard, for God's sake.
Right. Yeah. No, and they're high up, they're tiny. No, so absolutely. Let me head down to Kevin, and then I'll go over to, let me see who this guy is. Redleg. I'm going to go to Kevin Redleg, and then Malcolm. What's up, brother? Kevin, good, buddy.
What's up, boys? Colonel, how are you? I'm gonna say something that's probably gonna be unpopular, but
Oh, here it
Yeah.
comes. Here it comes.
But wouldn't the best way for our troops not to die in the Middle East is to not have them all over the Middle East? I mean,
I've been calling for them to be
okay.
withdrawn since before Donald
Oh,
Trump
thank God.
left
Someone
office, man.
speaking some
Yeah,
sense.
I agree with
Thank
you.
you. Oh,
Yeah, I mean,
I was first off, I
you,
was terrified to ask because I'm like, I like the colonel. I don't want him yelling at me.
yeah,
But like, I'm like,
yeah.
oh, we
No,
have troops dying in
I
Jordan.
want to
I
hug
didn't
you.
know we had troops in
I want,
Jordan.
well, we've had the air base there. My son, one of my sons, actually spent 6 months there once upon a time when we were retaliating against the Assad for the so-called chemical attack on civilians and everything. I'm still not convinced that wasn't a false operation conducted by our side, but he was there. They weren't under any big threat, but they were ready back in those days. So I've known it was there, but you know, I've been I've been calling for the troops never have to have been in northern Syria. We've never had Congress approve that mission in northern Syria. They did tacitly a few months ago when the bill to remove them from Syria failed, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean they don't have a mission. Those troops do not. There is no mission there for U.S. forces to be in those areas. You know, we should have redeployed them home and reset back to our main operating bases in the region at a minimum. And I'm talking Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and remove those forces from Iraq and Syria a long time ago because they're sitting ducks. They are sitting ducks. And all they're there for is to attract weapons, obviously, when things go to shit. And that's what you see happening. And this administration is so I guess I don't know if they're frozen in fear or they're just stupid. I tend to go on the side of stupid, that they wouldn't pull them out. Even after the October 7th thing was a great opportunity to pull those forces back to our main operating base. It's not the, leave the whole area, but pull them back to our main operating bases to refit, re-equip, get some rest in a non-combat zone environment, because whether you like it or not, they are in those areas, and then wait and see what happens after October 7th, and kind of act like a big deterrence force, like our Navy and Air Forces are doing. But no, they didn't. It's like they're frozen. And they can't decide on what to do. And the longer it goes, the more we get hit, the more people we lose, and the more tit for tat, weak stuff we do because Biden and his boys and girls are too afraid to respond with overwhelming response to reestablish deterrence. The more Americans are going to die, and the more unwilling the generals and the admirals, which aren't very competent in the first place, are going to be to want to pull those guys out. I was reminded of an event earlier today. I was listening to somebody talk about the Lebanon bombing when we lost 200 something Marines, and one of the things that President Reagan did was he decided not to respond, and he withdrew them. Saved a lot of lives over a lot of years because he did that. So that's something that people should be thinking about, but they're not.
Thanks, Colonel. Let me head down to Red Light Good, buddy.
Hey, good evening, everybody.
Amen.
Americans and patriots. First name's Al, but a lot of people think I'm AI, so that drives me crazy because they call me that. So, and red leg, as Colonel Maness would know, is an artillery guy. So I was combat arms, but.
Yeah.
Colonel, this question's for you. I see everything that's going on over there. One flag drip coffin is one too many, right? And
Right.
my thing is, do you think, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think that this might be some type of a ploy to keep Biden in office? Democrats will sink to any level they possibly can. I think they don't think they have a chance in the election. And it also is kind of cutting down on the noise with the Biden crime history and everything and what's going on with Hunter Biden and all of that. It just seems that every time, that starts to escalate, something happens where the attention is what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of re refocused on another area, and they just kind of seem to skate under the wire. You know what I mean? And I think, like you said, I know for a fact that we've been over there since 2015. That's special operations, all kinds of stuff in the Middle East. So, because I have friends, obviously, that were at the general level. So I have, knowledge that a lot of people don't. But it's like, I was talking to General Fenton. I'm sure you know who he is.
Yeah.
I was at a celebration of life for one of my buddies, a retired brigadier general, and he told me about that helicopter crash with the 5 special forces guys before it ever hit the news. And these are the ones we're finding out about. But what else is going on over there that we don't know about that's not hitting the news? You know what I mean? Like you said, those folks are in combat zones, whether they like to say it or not. You got IEDs and everything else. I mean, I'm sure there's stories that we don't know about, but I would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, those little operating bases are all considered useful jumping off points for special operations raids and kinetic operations and and boots on the ground type stuff. So that's one of the reasons I'm sure that JSOC doesn't want to let them go, quite frankly, because they are being tasked with both what's called white SOP and black SOP operations. They wouldn't be there. We wouldn't be there if we weren't conducting those kind of things. It's they're definitely being used for combat operations for trigger pullers, and more than likely it's soft guys and gals because the big infantry units and movements and armor movements and things like that, there really aren't going on right now, and there's really no need for Americans to be doing that kind of stuff. So that's point one. Point two is, look, man, having been in the political arena since 2013, never put it past any politician in office, especially in an election year, that's going to be doing some kind of crazy ploy to get people distracted away from the bad stuff and onto something that might help them. And presidents that have wars going on have always been more popular and more easily reelected than presidents that don't, especially if they had shitty records. Look what happened to H.W. Bush. He had a great record, highest approval rating ever known to any president, and then he went down to the lowest approval rating known to any president after the war was over. And he didn't have a war to fall back on when he screwed up domestically and decided to raise taxes, even though he promised not to. So, yeah, never put that past him. Everything he's doing right now is political. I don't know if you saw it today, but he's decided he's going to go to Palestine, Ohio now and do some photo ops, and he's never been there one damn day
Amazing.
since that incident happened. So absolutely. A lot of this is political. And you know what's really sad about it? And Redleg, this as good or better as I do, is that American kids are dying. We've lost 5 now between the 2 SEALs that fell off the ladder, so supposedly, in the boarding operation, and then these 3 soldiers from Georgia. They're dying, and they're dying unnecessarily because they really don't need to be there. They have no mission. It's like the 13 that were KIA at the end of Afghanistan. It's completely unnecessary to do that operation that way, and those lives were sacrificed for political reasons because Joe Biden wanted to get them out of there so he could celebrate on 9/11. That's exactly what the reason was. And then, remember the last thing that the Afghanis remember us doing is killing one of our own guys that helped us out, and 7 of his kids, and I think his wife too, 9 people that we bombed and said they were terrorists after the bomb went off that killed the 13 service members. So the last act that we did was a inhumane war crime that we never really admitted to fully or made any reparations for, and that's just that's the way it is. So we created a bunch more little terrorists Okay,
Yeah.
bunch.
Colonel, quick question before I head to Malcolm. Do you think that an actual escalation to a full blown war, or I'm not sure what you would call it, starts in 2024 because of Biden's just abysmal ratings across the board?
Well, I will tell you this. I've been talking to some folks that are at the same level as far as experience and education and those kind of things and this stuff as I am, different services, but we're all pretty much in agreement that if you compare this time frame and the events that we're watching occurring and participating in and those kind of things with I think it's 1938. In 1938, World War II had really already started, but most people, except maybe Churchill, didn't really understand that it had. But there were so many different wars and proxy wars going on, like the Spanish Civil War and those kind of things, that it was just a matter of time, unless either we got lucky and disrupted it, or figured it out and disrupted it, and neither one of those occurred, obviously. And for the United States, December 1941 happened.
Right.
So we're in a very, very similar time, and the old saying that those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And I got to tell you, this administration is doing things in a different way than the administrations in the 1930s from a foreign policy perspective. It's actually the opposite way. They're too engaged and too involved, and but in a weak way. So we appear to be weak, just as we appeared to be isolationists in the late 30s. Now we're not isolationists, but we appear to be so weak that the adversaries are lighting off little conflicts and wars all over the planet.
Right.
And the U.S. is the only country whose strength alone, without doing anything, can deter that kind of activity. And the deterrence has failed, I think, utterly. And I fully expect that President Xi in China may, in fact, try to do a violent takeover of Taiwan before Donald Trump can get reelected. I've been on that timing for about a year now.
Right.
So because he's hurting domestically and he's a dictator no matter what, and any authoritarian that's hurting domestically, if they get an opportunity to light up a conflict and use their armed forces for a reason that they think is going to help their country, we'll take that opportunity to do it. So there's a couple things driving in favor of that prediction, but
Right.
I'm not predicting, but my spidey sense is up, and
Right.
that would be the for want of a better term, the Pearl Harbor that lit off a wider conflict.
Yeah.
In my
Yeah.
opinion. So the possibilities there.
China's definitely having some issues with their economy, with their stock market, with their housing market. So there's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
going on over there. Malcolm, going to head to you. We got about 7 minutes left with the Colonel. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, no, all good, all good. I'm not trying to, like I said, I don't really have any deep points. I think the good Colonel's been, more than astute in his observations and concise in his explanations. So all I was thinking about asking, especially just with the advent of this new drone warfare, which it just seems like to me, again, Iran was basically testing them when they were shipping their Shahed drones, or what we affectionately like to call the Doritos, over to Russia to try against Ukraine. So what I'm really wondering, because we saw it being demonstrated there, is the new dimension of warfare going to be this quasi-economic warfare where a couple of where like a maybe $1,000 drone is blowing up $1 to $1 billion sets of equipment, and basically creating sort of a pseudo World War I type environment where now you have countries basically blowing up their economy to fund war with these extremely expensive pieces of equipment that can be blown up for the cost of a measly $1,000. Like, do you think that that's going to become the next frontier of warfare?
Well, I think you're watching it happen before your eyes. Speaking of World War I warfare, the Ukraine-Russia war. That's exactly what that is right now. That's why Ukraine is with this counteroffensive that they still talk about today. they've lost so much equipment and so many people in that, because that is trench warfare, that the Russians haven't forgotten that strategy and tactics and construction and defensive technology and capability over the last 100 years, and have proven to be very effective at it. But the cardboard drone that I was talking about earlier, to your point, Malcolm, is that is that capability, that and those like it are they are the great field leveler. Now, will they ever be able to take on like a United States Navy? No, you're going to have something that's close to what the Chinese Communist Party's Navy is growing towards, to do that in a way that makes it ineffective, that makes the U.S. Navy ineffective. But uh, uh, can they take on the vaunted maneuver warfare strategy of the United States Army and our NATO allies through M1 tanks and those kind of things? Absolutely. You're watching it happen. If you look closely at the stuff coming out of Ukraine and Russia, with an objective eye, not with an eye I'm rooting for one side or
Right,
another,
right.
and you just look at it objectively, that's exactly what we're observing, is that armor and maneuver warfare tactics and strategies have to be completely rethought because of the proliferation of this very cheap but highly effective technology.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
making the billion-dollar platforms, they will not be obsolete, but it sure makes them appear to be obsolete. And
Mhm.
the other thing that it's doing is that it's weakening the ability for the peace to be maintained
Yeah.
around the world, because it's so cheap to do. If you have this force, uh, that can take on a big gorilla, or make the big gorilla ineffective while it takes on the other force that it's really trying to topple or defeat or whatever it is in a small country. Uh, those kind of things are going to be more. There's a higher propensity for that type of combat to occur today because of this technology. So I think you're
Right.
seeing it happen in front of your eyes.
Yeah, and just as a quick follow up, again,
Sure.
just once again, kind of being concise. Looking at what we're seeing, especially with the Houthis, the Houthis have been a stubborn thorn in the side of not only Israel but also Saudi Arabia. They have this natural advantage, and one thing I'm kind of seeing with this drone warfare is that it makes a lot of the conventional use of artillery and all of these, all of our mechanical advantage that we can pretty much levy on them from the ground. It makes it almost obsolete. So do you think that our level of success, if we were to conduct an operation, is going to be very minimal, given the fact that they can essentially do what the 2000, what Hezbollah did during the 2006 warfare against the IDF, and sort of grab us by the belt and pull us in close to their territory? And you even see the U.S. having, success fighting in that mountainous terrain over there in Yemen against the Houthis if we have to go boots on the ground.
Well, let's take the boots on the ground piece first. We should fight that war like Secretary Rumsfeld and his team fought the Afghanistan war, and that is you send teams in to link up with the opposing forces and get them capability through those teams to take the Houthis on, because that's the way you win that fight, and you win it without getting thousands of Americans killed with the boots on the ground, number one. But you also win it because the opposing forces against the Houthis are the ones that know that ground and know that terrain. And they know the Houthis better than anybody else. They've been fighting them for a long time. Now, as far as making some of the bigger pieces of equipment capabilities obsolete, I don't think in this particular warfare, because we're going to, if our commanders are smart and Biden doesn't interfere. I mean, there's a lot of ifs there, but in a perfect world, we're using the Navy to fight, and the geography of that space, with the two sides surrounded by the seas, and the United States Navy and allied navies that are going to participate. That is going to be, I mean, that's our most effective place to operate from in that particular geographic space, and it's entirely to our advantage. That's why we're able to knock down almost every almost every attack that's been shot out into the sea has been knocked down with very few exceptions if there was a U.S. Navy or a coalition trigger puller vessel in the area to stop it. Now, there have been a few commercial vessels that have been hit. I don't know if that one the other day sink, the one that they had to evacuate an abandoned ship because of the fire. I never got a follow up on whether that was sunk or not. But so from that perspective, no, we're not obsolete. I mean, the Navy capability and amphibious capability from the U.S. Marine Corps is perfect for that environment. But I would advise, the Secretary of Defense to follow the Rumsfeld model for how we did Afghanistan, because those forces are there and they have been fighting them for a long time. The Saudis have been helping them. So we have the contacts and those kind of things, and that would be the best methodology to go in there and defeat those guys. But they're not going to defeat them without our help. The Saudis have been trying to help them for a long, long time to no avail.
Thanks, Colonel. Going to go to Don't Lie and Thomas. Guys, if you could pop your question out real quick. Colonel's got to go, and then I have a parting question for him. Don't Lie, go ahead.
Thanks, Crypto James, for the mic. Sir, Colonel McGregor put out a tweet just about 8 o'clock, and I was really curious what your thoughts on this were. I personally happen to agree with him. I served active all through the 80s and then reserved through the 90s, and I've kind of been tracking what's happening with Israel and Gaza and so forth. So his tweet, I wish I could post it in the purple bubble, but I can't. I'm in Twitter jail. It says, anti-Israeli Arab militias are responsible for attacking the United States. Intelligence reveals Iran did not order the attacks. They are attacking us because we are supporting the destruction of the Arab population in Gaza. If we were not involved, the attacks would end. That was Colonel McGregor's tweet, and I was curious if you agreed with him. What your opinion on that was.
Read the first part of that again. Anti-what? Anti-Israeli?
Right. Anti-Israeli Arab militias are responsible for attacking the United States. Intelligence reveals Iran did not order the attacks. They are attacking us because we are supporting the destruction of the Arab population in Gaza. If we were not involved in the attacks, the attacks would end.
One of the things he's right about is that we should not be involved in Israel, other than as an ally. We said we'd put a deterrence force over there to keep other bad actors from trying to widen the war. That's a noble goal, and one that we have the capability to do and should do if necessary. So, because it's an ally, Israel is an ally of ours, long-standing. But I don't know that I agree with him that. Well, he didn't say that the Arab militias were not Iranian-backed Arab militias. Number one, because the intel that I'm seeing is that these are all Hezbollah-based militias, whether they're in Iraq, Syria, or anywhere else in that area.
But aren't Hezbollah? I'm sorry, but aren't Hezbollah and Hamas and so forth? Aren't they financed by Iran?
Yes,
so
that's what I'm saying. Anybody that's got a name, the name of Hezbollah in their militia, and all the ones that are the shooters that I'm aware of they're all Iranian backed, and the Hamas is Iranian backed. Nobody does anything over there without Iranian support and capability, equipment, logistics, communications, all of that stuff is run out of Iran. Now, I know Iran has denied any involvement in these things, but those people are not going to do this without some type of direction from an Iranian commander of some sort, and they have Iranian commanders on the ground with those militias. I don't think I agree with what McGregor said about Iran not being involved. Now, do I have evidence that they sent an order through a specific communications link to all these militias to do this? No, but I've got enough to know, that without them involved, none of this would be happening at all. But any involvement in the Gaza thing, other than in a defensive role or a support role, such as helping them get their logistics in and all that stuff, is really dumb for us to do. I've said we shouldn't be involved in that completely, but we should also not prevent Israel from doing what it needs to do to make Hamas unconditionally surrender either.
Right.
So
Th-
that's kind of where I'm at on that.
Thanks, Colonel. Let's go to Thomas. Thomas also served. He's in here a lot. So Thomas, good to see you, brother.
Thanks, Crypto. No, Colonel and I know each other. We've talked quite a few times. Colonel, I just wanted to know, and we can totally take this. I can make a phone call to you about the optics involved in Lee, and I think his last name, I'm gonna mispronounce it, but Wheelbarger. Are you aware of the optics that his inventions have been involved in?
Not familiar.
Okay. So, Colonel, I know you got to go, so thanks for giving us time. One question for you. I think a lot of us in the room probably share the same sentiment that we need Donald Trump back in the White House, and we're going to discuss that a little further tonight. From a military perspective, how bad does the military need Donald Trump back into the White House? From what you've seen, the 4 years from Trump, the 3 years coming up on 4 with Biden. How bad does the military need Trump back?
Well, very badly, because what it's going to take is a Secretary of Defense appointed that's not related to the corporations that do the defense industry, and that's also not related to the power brokers inside the Beltway. And there are people, there are colonels and senior officers and enlisted people that are retired, that have run for office or been in office, that believe the way we do and support America First policies, that could be hired to do this job. But the first thing that's going to have to happen is a complete elimination of the DEI organizational and personnel and policy infrastructure on day one. On day one, I'm telling you, if somebody like me is appointed Secretary of Defense, that is the very first order that will be done in a written way when I walk in the door, is to eliminate those organizations, retire those people. Anybody that's ever worked in that field will no longer be associated with the armed forces. Then the next steps are eliminate all spending and training requirements that are not directly related to these young Americans being tasked to deter our enemies, and if deterrence fails, to find, fix, target, and kill the enemies of America and win on the battlefield, so that we can come home and be in peace. And then the third thing is we've got to clean house on the senior officer leadership. One of the best ways I've ever seen done to do that was something called the Louisiana Maneuvers that General Marshall and his training command commander, Leslie McNair, put together. It's called the Louisiana Maneuvers, where they did live maneuvers through Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, and Tennessee with actual assets, actual people, actual logistics, and they exercised everything. But especially they exercised the generals and the colonels and the lieutenant colonels to the point where they were able to identify the generals that needed to be put out right away, the generals they could keep for a little while, but then make them retire. And they identified the lieutenant colonels and colonels that need to become 1-stars immediately, and then move up. And that's how we ended up with people like George Patton, Dwight Eisenhower, Omar Bradley, and those kind of guys at the 4-star level on D-Day. Okay, was because of these maneuvers that happened before the war started. So I've called for it. I've written about it. We've got to have a set of maneuvers like that. Of course, obviously, we have a joint force concept now, and we would need to do it in the Pacific environment with the eye on that maneuver being to do a land war against our nearest adversary there, and our biggest one, and that's China, in order to ferret out all that leadership and see who can do it, who can't do it, and get them out right away, and then start growing new officers. The other thing, secondarily, now that will do is enable us to get out these people that have accepted this Marxist critical theory sets that is destroying our military from within. And the trust in the institution is at the lowest I've ever seen it in my lifetime by the American people, and that's a problem too.
Yeah, absolutely. Mark had some issues with his car, but I can speak for him. He definitely agrees with you. And if and when you get over there, Colonel, listen, you got to give me and Mark a call. I can come over as your advisor, and you got to put a star on Mark. So
don't hold your breath. I don't think they'll let me anywhere near the levers of power because they know that I'm going to create. I believe in creative destruction.
well,
The guy that created the OODA loop is John Voight. I got his briefing right here on my desk. It's called Patterns of Creation and Destruction. That led him to put a winning strategy in the hands of Americans. Even the Marine Corps has a statue of him and his work in their War College lobby. So,
right.
I'm going to bust it up if I get in there, and they will never let me near it.
well, that's what we need, and we need 4 years of some people say vengeance, whatever you want to call it, but we need 4 years of something different. Colonel, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you coming on such short notice. Have a great night, great evening. I'll be in touch with you, and we'll chat soon. Okay, bud?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Colonel.
See you later.
Of course, sir.
Everybody.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. So, James, are you there, buddy?
Yep, I'm here. I got you.
All right. So, moving on to part. What is it in French? Is it part deux? So, like, it's part two in English, right? It's part dos in Spanish, right? What is French? Does anyone know? What is French?
It's part deux.
Do. You said it right. Mm-hmm.
Do. All right. So yeah, Mark is going to hop on at some point. He had an issue with his computer. His computer he's had for like 10 years. It's absolutely amazing. This guy still has a working computer after 10 years because the batteries go like everything else. But somehow this computer has still been working for 10 years. But tonight it wasn't working, and then his truck didn't start. So we'll see how it goes, but he'll hop on. So part two, guys, part two, Gen Z for Trump. So we have two people in here tonight. First, we have the Goldberg show, and I'll get to him in a second. And we also have Jax. So one of the things I think, and anyone who wants to come chat on this, please let me know and hop up and come up. And this is kind of like an open mic. We're going to kick some ideas around, and I'm curious what James has to say about this. So there's an issue here a little bit. We have some Gen Z people for Trump, but I think it's arguable that you can say the younger generation, these Harry, whatever his name is, I forget his name, and his counterpart that are in their dad's Audis doing these. What's up, Miss G? You're gonna say something?
Harry Sisson.
Oh, that's okay. I didn't need to know, but thanks. They're in their brand new Audis doing these, freak out videos of Trump. And, there's people in here that were like, oh my God, I'm so scared of Trump, dictatorship, white supremacy. And you know who you are in here tonight. The one person where the colonel said, listen, he couldn't find it. Now, he didn't say that about the Ukrainian military or the Russian military, but he said that about ours. But I think there's an issue with our schools and our colleges, especially private ones, where you have kids coming out not only on the left side, but on the far left side. And this has been promulgated for quite a few years now. So, the issue there when you look at Gen Z is that more of them, I think more of them go left than go right. Now, obviously, we'll have Jackson, do I keep calling you the Goldberg show, or can I just call you Goldberg? Okay. Goldberg is okay. All right. So we'll have them talk about it. They're both Gen Zers for Trump. We're going to discuss that. If Savvy has time to come back, we'll bring her up because I know she's on the ground doing a lot of stuff. Paul, Jack, Cliff, feel free to come up. Michael Dean, I'm going to toss you a mic. Cliff, feel free to come up to take your poison pill tonight that you just heard. So I'm curious what we can do to move Gen Z, right? I'm looking at some polls that are recent. Polls are polls, take them for what they're worth. But Biden is arguably the worst president, not only in our lifetimes, no matter what age you are in here, but just possibly one of the worst presidents ever. And the fact that Trump is only up 3 to 5 points in some states is actually pretty scary. What that shows to me is that there are people that are still not possibly voting for Trump, even though we're going through the hardest time fiscally, economically, globally that we could possibly have with Joe Biden. Nothing he does is correct. Nothing he does is right. Yet people are not voting for him. They're voting against Trump. It's the same thing as last time. Same exact thing as last time. Now with O'Keefe coming out with his expose, does Biden get off the ballot? James has been saying since I think day one that Biden's not going to be on the final ballot, right? So we're going to get to that. But regardless of who's on that ballot, notwithstanding, I have to say for Chris Moreno, apparently, and Matt Gaetz also said this to me, I think like 2 weeks ago in here. Apparently, Michelle Obama, people are really enthused about Michelle Obama. I'm personally not, but I guess some people are. Matt Gaetz said that would be a problem. I mean, he said it in here right after he told me to fuck off when I said FSU shouldn't have been in the Final Four. So, I remember that conversation very vividly. So that's where we're at. What can we do? James, I'm going to go to you first, and then I'm going to hop down to Goldberg and Jack so they can introduce themselves and talk. Where are we with Gen Z? Where can we get more votes about Gen Z? Because that's an area that's possibly lacking for Trump. And as you do that, I'm going to bring some people up.
Thanks, Crypto. Yeah, I think this is a problem that's as old as time, right? And it stems from the old adage that says, if you're not liberal when you're young, you have no heart. If you're not conservative when you're old, you have no mind. That's pretty much accurate over the broad spectrum. So when you look at, how does Gen Z overall affect things, I got to be honest with you, they don't. Just like every other traditional sense of us when we were young. Generation X, when we were the same age, we didn't affect the overall outcome of the elections because the numbers are just not there. They're too busy doing other things, living their lives, building families, building careers. And I'm talking about broadly. I'm not talking about specifically because there's clearly people in Gen Z that are absolutely pro-Trump, and there are clearly some people that are absolutely pro-Biden. Those are people that they don't fit that general mold. But when you ask, how do you outreach to Gen Z? I think the simple answer is you fucking listen to them, because you have no idea what the issues are that they are facing, and you have no idea where they're coming from. We can speculate and we can say, well, let's look at what a lot of polling tells us about this. As a whole, Gen Z actually thinks they don't have a future. Like, they really believe that as a whole. I think the number's like 65% of Gen Zers think that the world is going to end one way or the other, whether it be from war or global climate crisis or some other shit. So, that's a huge reflection point to say, okay, guys, the world's still going to be here just like it was when we were kids. Calm down. But that's about it. Like, that's honestly about it. The rest of it, just listen to them. Let them tell you what's important to them. Let them figure it out, and then we figure out how we can respond to those things with facts, conversation, and trying to teach them. Quite honestly, I mean, I still learn new stuff every day, and I try to say this to people once they turn 35. I say, listen. Once you turn 35, if you're honest and you do self-reflection, you will realize what a fucking idiot you were 5 years ago, right? And you will say, damn, I was dumb. And then 5 years later, you're going to keep doing the same thing every 5 years if you're properly self-reflecting, because that's the reality of the world. We continually grow as people as long as we want to continue to grow. It's when you stop trying to learn that there's a problem. So anyways, that's my spiel. I think I answered your question there, Crypto.
Yeah, no, of course. Thanks, brother. Let me head down to Goldberg. Goldberg, what's up? How you doing tonight?
Crypto, how you doing, man? James, thank you guys both for having me on tonight. Looking forward to tonight. I see some familiar faces in here, so you guys will probably hear this one time or two before. But for those that don't know me, I'm 26 years old. I'm a Russian immigrant. I've been voting for Donald Trump since 2016, which has been my first election. I'm looking forward to tonight. And real quickly, Crypto, something you were mentioning about my generation that I think that is a big problem with my generation is they lack perspicacity. If you talk to a lot of younger people, whenever I say younger, I like to group younger people, the ones that are still in high school, let's say, or middle school. If you ask these group of individuals what their viewpoints are on anything, they seem not to care.
Right.
And that's something that scares me. So my message across, I guess on X, since Elon took over, because for the longest time on social media, young people like myself and Jax weren't even allowed to talk on social media. I was banned on Instagram and Facebook for just being a Trump supporter. It was absolutely crazy. So again, it's nice to have a platform to finally be able to get our voices out and heard.
So no, of course. So Goldberg, let me ask you before I go to Jax, who has been in here before, so it's great to see him. What are some of the things that Gen Z can do, or that other people can do? Because it seems I don't know how, but it seems as if everything that's hip, new, Taylor Swift, whatever, is Biden. I don't get it. I can't follow it, but that's why I'm not there. How do we get more people to come out to be excited for Trump, or is it just not a thing? Because maybe we can't do it. Biden has these celebrities coming out for him. I did see, I think Snoop Dogg is apparently on board for Trump now, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe he gives up weed, becomes vice president. But what is something we can do to get Gen Z more involved? And I wish that Scott Presser was in here tonight. He's always in here. What is something that we can do for Gen Z to be more involved in the GOP conservative movement?
Yeah, excellent question. And I think the first thing the conservatives, or really I would say the American First Patriots, what we need to do is we need to take back our culture. If you look at Hollywood, if you look at these influencers, they push far left ideologies. If you look at the Department Board of Education, they push far right or far left ideologies. So in order for us to get back on the right track, we have to change the culture first. So in order for that to happen, I think the first step was what Elon did, buying Twitter. That was a huge thing. I think 20, 30 years from now, we're going to look back at this time and be thankful it happened.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so too. And maybe we'll discuss later, James, because we're kind of geeks about that. The 55 billion that the judge just took away from him. That's absolutely craziness out there. Jax, good to see you, man. What's going on?
Well, so I'm 20 years old, so I'm a bit on the younger side of Gen Z compared to Goldberg. I'll say this though. I've been supporting Donald Trump since 2016, and in 2016, I was attacked by a teacher because I was wearing a Trump sticker. Our schools are definitely liberal breeding centers. I will state that, but one thing I want to point out is, for me, for example, my parents were extremely based, and something many people like don't seem to realize is that Gen Z was raised by Generation X. And who else is extremely based? And Generation X. And that's something a lot of people miss. So if you look at the statistics that are pushed out from the generational, the voting patterns, what you'll notice is there's two groups in Gen Z. The two groups are males and females, and males heavily swing conservative, and females heavily swing liberal. So that is the thing. I mean, males in Generation Z are, I think it's like 10 or 12 points higher in most like polls you'll see. Um, I mean, when we were growing up too, we have to remember we had 4 years of Donald Trump. And the years were good, but we have to remember when people weren't paying attention, like people my age, and they were just going about with their lives. If they turned on the news was screaming Hitler is president. In 2020, that was kind of that kind of resulted. But in 2024, my generation for the first time kind of has an experience under a democratic leadership.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a big thing. But I mean, what I will say is we hate on Generation Z. And I am kind of against, like, I don't know if there's an ism or an ist, but I do not like millennials. Millennials are the problem, and millennials, their children is Generation Alpha. So if people want to hate on my generation, but we are the most conservative generation in a while.
So Jax, let me ask you, because I get all this stuff confused. Does Generation Z come before or after millennials?
After. So
Okay.
millennials are 27 to 40, Generation Z is 26 to 12, and then below 12 is Alpha.
Got man, Alpha. They really named it Alpha. Oof, they need to stand up for that one. So we'll see how it goes. Paul, let me go to you before I go to Goldberg. What are your thoughts? We have massive swings across the voting blocks here. Is Paul there, or is he out on the border catching someone right now?
No, dude, actually, I'm
there
talking to
he
my
is.
daughter. My
There he
daughter is
is.
19, and I'm asking her questions for this conversation.
Tell her to come on.
Well, she doesn't want to come on. She says she'll sit
Oh
here and
my.
listen to it.
Oh
But
my.
no. She's got some really good points, bud.
I know. Paul's daughter, come on and speak with Dad. Let's go. Oh, there finally now Pressler shows up. Now he
she's
shows
sitting
up.
right here. And she can hear you, and if she wants to say something, she'll speak up. But she was saying that the big fear for her age group, in a lot of ways, one is the social thing, where she says she thinks that people need to be accepted for everything that they say that they are. That's coming from the horse's mouth.
Right, but Paul, listen, you're not, people are not unicorns. This whole thing of allowing anyone to be anyone at anything at any time, we have to start basing ourselves back in reality. These man, just listen, if you want pink hair, green hair, go out and do it. But again, if you're over 18, make choices that you want. If you're 18 or younger and you have parents that are saying, hey, listen, you can't get a tattoo because that's too much. But by the way, you can chop off your dick. That's an issue. That's a problem there. So we need to start not, there are some things, Paul, that are just off the board. And I think, as Jackson Goldberg said tonight, we can use Colonel Maness's take on the military, on how it needs to be gutted, and bring that back to our schools. If you look at Libs of TikTok, which I'm so glad for the past year we've been able to show that to Cliff, you see these principals and these teachers, putting possible ideas that were never going to be in these children's heads, and they're coming to fruition now, right? So we have these, again, these kids can believe in. Yeah, so these kids can believe in Santa Claus to a certain age. There's a video that's gone viral on Twitter where I think the father puts down 3 Oreos and $10,000 in cash, and I think the 5-year-old picks the Oreos. Of course, I mean, right? So, but if you look at these people that are on the edge of being accepted, doing these outlandish things, you don't have to look farther than the parents. Now, while I would say this, Paul, I would say while your daughter is most likely fantastic and she believes everyone should be accepted, I don't think she's out there doing crazy stuff, judging on who her dad is. But that's just my take on it.
No, you're absolutely right. She is not. She's actually a very, very headstrong, but very, very level-headed at the same time. She is 19. She's got her own way. The other thing she's worried about is she feels that just to own a home, the American dream in the United States, you have to make an unobtainable amount of money at a young age. Where she's saying that it's been mapped out at about $75K a year to own a home in most places, not all, but most. And sometimes that's not even enough because, she's lived in some very high rent districts as a dad, and understands the need for a certain amount of income to get what you need and to be able to put a roof over your head. So she's got a level head of take on it. I think 75 is a little high for a single person, but that's up for discussion depending on where you live.
Right. And I am not an economist, so anyone who wants to hop in here in a second, go ahead and, have your thoughts on this. And then at some point I want to go to Scott Pressler with Gen Z voting, registering, things like that. But no, Paul, your daughter's absolutely right. If you go back prior to 2008, and we had that crash, right? If you go back to prior to 2008, things were, they were getting up there in 2007, 2008, but they were affordable. 2008, we have the crash, everything kind of starts over again, prices drop. When you look at things now, and it's been happening for probably the past, at least 4 to 5 years. You have BlackRock, you have Vanguard, you have a lot of these multi-international companies picking up homes, and even buying a home now. You look at a home, and I still have this now. I look at a home and I'm thinking, you know what? That home should be 450. That home should be 400,000. And I look and it's 899, right? I look at a home that's a little nicer. I'm like, you know what? I would pay 750 for that. It's 1.4 million, right? So inflation is here. It's here. Biden has printed money. We had COVID. We have to deal with what's happening here. Prices are up. Housing market is up. Renting is up. It is not anywhere close to what it is with wages. If you go back for at least the last 20 to 30 years minimum, wages and earning potential have not kept up with the housing market, with the renting market. It's simply out of control. And guess what? I'm an attorney. I'm not an economist. I don't know how to fix that. I do know my salary went a lot further a long time ago. I make more money now, and I make a very good living, but it's not anywhere close to what my buying power was before. I go to Publix, I step out of there with nothing for dinner. I just spent $200. So again, you can see it in the supermarket too. Before I go back to you, Paul, real quick, let me ask James or Sweet Pea, did you guys have a response to that?
Well, I would quickly say, obviously you're correct, but here's the problem as relates to Gen Z. Gen Z is investing in cruises, not houses. That is a problem. And it's because of their mindset that the world isn't even going to exist by the time they get to be our age. So the economy largely doesn't even apply to their understanding at the Gen Z level.
Sweet Pea?
Just a couple things. First and foremost, if you recall, when the men were in charge and women couldn't vote, kids weren't cutting off their dicks. So just keep that in mind. But beyond that,
So are you saying? Are you
saying.
saying that, I don't know, the 28th or 29th, whatever it is, should repeal the 19th? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying that obviously
It's a yes or no, Sweet
women.
Pea.
Well,
Sweet
yeah,
Pea?
I think maybe it would be
Okay.
fine. I really
Okay.
wouldn't be
Okay.
opposed to it, quite honestly.
Okay. Go
Just
ahead.
saying. Anyway, okay. In regards to the housing, obviously I can speak to that since that's what I do for a living. And yeah, homes are about double to triple what they were just 3 years ago.
I just dropped Cliff. This is where you and Cliff argue that inflation's not happening. Okay.
Yeah, I know,
Go
because he
ahead.
thinks that it's not happening. Anyway, and of course, wages definitely are not keeping up to it. So I could definitely keep up with you. And I actually do a lot of posts on the economy almost every day regarding the jobs reports. A lot of the jobs that are being filled right now, about 80% of them are actually government jobs, just FYI. Also, if you look at the jobs reports every single month, they recant about half or more of the jobs they reported from the month before. So it's really a big psyop, quite honestly. And no, I don't see it going away anytime soon. They've got to stop printing money and slash the budget hugely if we are going to see any change. So I'll just land it there and say I agree with you on so much of this.
Can I real quick just answer your question, Crypto, is how do we solve this? And I'm going to just put out the very short, broad talking point here is the plan is all the trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars underneath our feet called gold, and we call it oil, actually, liquid gold. That is the plan to save the economy. It's going to come with a little bit of pain point. People need to be prepared for that, but that is the solution, and that's where we're headed. That's why you hear drill, baby, drill, and just to put it in perspective for people that don't understand, 3 businesses involved in everything you purchase. Each one of them have fuel costs related to transportation and manufacturing. So when you lower fuel costs, you lower the cost of all production of all goods, whether it be farming and food or textiles and shirts and clothing. So that's why it's drill, baby, drill.
Good point, and 100% on target. And I totally forgot to mention that. Absolutely, oil production will help turn things around tremendously, as well as stopping printing money and cutting the budget. 100% correct, James.
All right. Real quick, just want to give a shout out to Kyle Seraphin. Kyle, good to see you. If you don't follow the Kyle Seraphin's podcast, is it called the Kyle Seraphin Show? I forget. Anyway, it's a good show. It really is. I watch him and Tim Pool, and I don't know who's better. Maybe if Kyle comes up, I'll explain who's better and why. But Kyle's show is great, and he's going to have Mark Nunn on doing live coverage with him. So that's going to be cool, and we all can't wait to see it. So if you don't follow Kyle, please do. He likes to give out emojis and talk about his time at the FBI. He really loved it. Like if you ask him, he was really a big fan. That got him to request. All right, before I bring up Kyle, I'm going to make room just real quick. Let me get to Cliff. Cliff, the Democrat of the room, before I go over to Goldberg and Jax, our guest for the evening. Cliff, people are saying there's some inflation going around here.
Yeah, did you just
what's
see
going on?
Did you just see what I put in your nest?
No, I didn't. No. Tell us, please.
Well, go take a look. I don't know where it does it show up there. I can't get
up. Okay, so it's from Al Cardenas, FL_DC. Oh God. What is he?
He's
an
talking
investor.
about the Fed chairman. He's saying the economy is good. He just constantly believes what the government feeds him.
Well, no, that's not true, because he does not agree with judges' rulings that go for Trump. So, but anyway, let me go here. It says, it's a video of. Okay, I can't play the video for everyone, but
it's just a quick
clip. Okay, so I'll read it. Powell executives summary would be: growth is solid to strong over the course of last year. The labor market, 3.7% unemployment, indicates that the labor market is strong. Well, it could only go down from where it was, right? We have seen inflation come down. Let's be honest, this is a good economy. Okay, that's by the guy who wrote about it. Okay, this is only 41 seconds though. Cliff, do me a favor. If you can DM it to me, I'll be able to play Jerome Powell's statement.
Okay, give me
that okay?
Second. I'll go after it.
But again, Crypto, what they're not telling you is the majority of the job growth has been within the government.
Right. Not only that, but a lot of the jobs came back. You can't lose a certain number of jobs, and then here they come back after COVID. I don't think so. There's a whole thing going on there. But
people are getting second and third jobs too, by the way.
Right. That is true. All right. Paul, let me come back to you real quick, because we were talking to you. Is there anything you want to chat about before? I just need to rotate some people to get Kyle up. Is there anything that you or your daughter wanted to chat about?
I was just asking her, and she said those were her two big things right there. Everything else, she agrees with the economy shit. And she thinks that not everybody's got a job because the economy's that way. And that's about it. But yeah, I'll go down a listener so you can get Kyle up.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Paul. I'll bring you back up. Gonna move it around. Let me go to Goldberg. Goldberg, what's the outlook with Gen Z when it comes to jobs and housing?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing that my generation needs to do is, excuse my language for any Christians, but pull their head out of their ass. You see a lot of my generation that's very lazy. They don't want to work. And I blame COVID for this 100%. COVID taught my generation to be lazy, to get handouts from the government. This is 100% the government's fault. And I believe that this is a determined, systematic effort to weaken the population. I mean, if you look at the men in my generation, they're trying to demasculinize my generation. They try to tell people my age, act how you feel. There's no stoicism nowadays. And then they try to tell men that my age that stick up for women, protect women. They say that that's toxic. It's completely ass backwards nowadays. And the guys that are in the chat, they'll agree with me, or I shouldn't say agree, but they'll understand what I'm saying here. It's only brothers that agree with you, understand your worldview, have enough honor to die beside you, have enough dignity to do the right thing that you could call on when shit goes wrong. And if you're a man without any kind of brotherhood, you're certain to be destroyed at some point. And I think a lot of men my age and younger don't have brotherhood. So I don't know. Right. I think it comes hand in hand and needs to go a long way.
Thanks, Goldberg. Let me head to, before I head over, let me head to Jax and then Idea. Jax, same thing. Those are obviously some big issues. Wages are not keeping up with inflation, and the housing market, groceries, fuel, everything is off the charts right now. What's the outlook? You're 20, you got your whole life ahead of you. But I'm not sure if you're in school. I'm not asking if you're working, but how have things changed for you?
So, I work in real estate in some ports, and then I'm also in school. But there was a house that was sold for what would be $780,000 in 2019, and I was working on selling it, and it was sold it was sold rather quickly too, a couple of months ago. I think it was like 2 months ago for 1.72 million or something crazy.
Amazing.
Um, the prices of housing, especially where I'm in North Carolina, and North Carolina has been invaded by New York, California, and other states. We're taking in 100,000 immigrants per year from these other terrible states, and we're the fourth most immigrated to state in the country. So I mean, there's a lot of demand for housing, and this is a major economic area in like the triad or whatever. Um,
Hmm.
but it is completely unrealistic for people. But I will say this: things are supposed to be unrealistic. You're not supposed to be able to buy a house at 22, even though you could in early America in like the early 1900s. It might take you a couple years, but if you save money, you work towards building a career, and you get married. So in today's world, when most people are on two incomes, you will be able to buy a house. It's not the end of the world. You just need to put some work into it, and it'll take a while. My parents didn't buy their first house till they were late 20s, and I think everyone should understand that it just takes time. But I do want to address two things.
Yeah, go ahead, bud.
James stated, "My generation feels like the world is going to end." And that is a true statement. 40. There was a stat that came out that 40% of Gen Z has taken preparation to be preppers, or whatever that word is. And I will state the world is in chaos. One of my good friends who's at a major college for economics, and he is not political, but he sent me a story earlier today that the interest rate is overtaking the defense budget. And he stated we are getting close to a death spiral. But other than that, I mean, like, if people my age think the world is kind of going crazy, it's because the world is kind of going crazy. I'll state
Right.
that. The other thing, just responding to crypto from the beginning,
Yep.
you stated that there's people among my generation like Harry Sisson and like Chris Mowry, and I will state the reason these people exist is because the left, like the DNC, is playing games targeting the younger generation, and this is something that the RNC is completely negligent of with Ronna McDaniel. I think that's her name, the horse
Yeah.
lady.
Yep.
And I mean, like the RNC is doing nothing to target the youth. I stated this to somebody who worked at the RNC. I stated, look, the DNC is making it public opinion that the Gen Z is going to vote for Democrats. The Republicans should be doing something similar. And the person who worked for the RNC stated to me that young people never vote for Republicans, so it's a waste of money. And that kind of broke my heart because young people in my generation are mainly independents. They don't care. There's a majority conservative out of those who are political, but most people don't care and they just want to drink alcohol and go to parties. And these people are still learning what the world is. So maybe we should target them and use propaganda to win. But that's all I wanted to state.
Thanks, Jax. Let me head up to Idea, our sponsor for the space. Idea, what's up, man?
Thanks, Crypto. Really appreciate your time and hosting the space. Actually, I'm gonna latch on to what Jack said. I wanted to convey an idea about trying to get Gen Z and millennials in general to vote for Trump. And as everyone knows, most big money is blue, and that money is very well utilized in buying influence from the Taylor Swifts of the world that convince those generations to vote for Biden. So conservatives are pretty good at building PACs and super PACs and getting donors. I think that we really need to break off at least some amount of that money that is raised and try to buy influence in ways that will really convince the younger generations to vote right. Anyway, thanks very much for the space. Just wanted to drop that idea for everyone to consider, and I'll drop down so other people can speak. Thanks.
All right, brother. Thanks. I'm going to go to Taylor and then G, and then I'm curious what Scott's take is on this, and then we're going to hit up Kyle to see what's going on. Taylor, You don't come up unless you're juiced up about something. So what's going on?
Well, I can stay juiced up for just another second because I think Miss G was first, and
Oh,
you
no,
know
no, we're not doing this. Just Taylor, go.
Okay, so as a millennial who is raising a Gen Z, I can tell you, she is very conservative. She will be. We just registered her last month, I believe it was, for her to be able to vote in November. She's going to be 18 in March. So she is going to be voting in the primary, and then she's going to be voting in the election in November. So I have been discussing with her everything, and her biggest concern is right now college and a job. And how is she going to pay for rent, because she wants to move out in 2 to 3 years. I haven't really told her that she's probably not going to be able to because of the cost of everything. But she is really worried about those things. Those are her big things. She's not worried about the social issues. I will say this. She doesn't fully understand the whole pride stuff, and she doesn't understand the whole trans things. Like, people can be whoever they want to be, but she doesn't quite get why it has to be like on everything and everywhere. Like, she's fine with everybody doing what they want to do. She just doesn't understand why it's being marketed, basically. But I have gone over with her, like, the reason that you need to be voting for Trump. I'm trying not to tell her how to vote at the same time, trying to tell her how to vote. I'm like, you're going to have
If you want to live in this house, you know who you'll vote for.
Right. No, she sees how much my paycheck is not going in the last couple of years. Like, she sees it. Like, I'm like,
Right.
we can't go out to eat. We can't do these things like we used to do. I can't take you on a big trip because I can't afford to do this anymore. And I'm actually making more than I was 3 to 4 years ago. So I think that that's also an indication of inflation and everything, because my money's just not going as far, and it's very clear to me. I will also say, as far as the housing market, I'm looking to buy a house in the next year to year and a half in this most horrible market to buy in. And I can tell you the houses that used to be 250 to 300, which was my price range, are now 400 to $500,000, and I'm not going to be able to afford that. It's just insane. The other thing is like Jack, I have a lot of transplants from other areas because I'm here in South Carolina. So they're building like slab houses everywhere, practically on top of each other, and then they're charging out the ass for them. So it's absolutely insane. The inflation and the economy, it's shit. I don't really see how Cliff doesn't see that. But anyway, that's all I really had to say.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, and it's tough because unless you have cash, the interest rates are up. So, all right, let's head to Miss G. Miss G, you and your people are coming out of the Northeast and messing it up for the rest of us. What do you have to say?
Okay, well, I don't know how much we're messing it up per se.
Messing it up, Miss G. I can't drive on my roads. I got Biden bumper stickers. I can't do anything down here in South Florida.
Listen, my people are not voting for Biden. My personal people are not voting for Biden.
Who are those people, Miss G? Because I think there's going to be.
We're not voting for Biden.
I'm Italian.
You're not voting for Biden.
Well, but there's other Italians down here who may or may not also be Jewish like me, and they're voting for Biden. What are we going to do about that?
They're probably native Floridians.
Miss G,
they're Jews, and they have a lot of money in the bank.
Miss G, they're taking all my bagels, and they can't drive.
Why do you do this to me? I just wanted to speak
Go ahead.
about Listen, I have 2 Gen Z kids, okay? You want to know what they fear? They fear they're not going to be able to afford to live. And yes, some of them are partying and spending their money because, they don't see a future. And if anyone is on this space paying attention, follow Unusual Whales, because they tweet about this a lot, and they provide who the source is where they're getting their information. They don't think they could buy a home. My kids, they're going nowhere. I have a 26-year-old and a 20-year-old that are thank God they have their parents paying, helping them pay, if not paying all of their tuition. and they know that buying a house is almost like a pipe dream. And like Taylor said, salaries will go up, but they're not going anywhere. You're losing it with inflation. So these kids, in a way, especially from conservative homes, I can say, because we keep our kids in. At least Italians do. I don't know about the rest of y'all, but Italians will let your kids live there until they die if they have to. And it's just they can't afford to live. I mean, I know I live in New York, and it's very expensive to live here. Undoubtedly, this is one of the highest, markets in the country. But with that being said, they don't want to leave to move to Idaho or wherever, like I tell my daughter,
Who wants to
I'm
move
going,
to Idaho? Nobody wants to go to Idaho.
but I'm just saying, I told my youngest, come with me to Florida. I told my older daughter, come with me to Florida. And they're like, no, I don't want to have to go somewhere else where I'm going to make less of a living, and just still get by. It's everywhere. Here is where I'm from, and here is where I want to stay. They are afraid. They are literally afraid that, listen, they get coming out of college with degrees, and not all of them are, the social sciences degrees, and they can't find a job. They're just not out there. So I don't know what they're saying, like, oh, well, we have all these jobs in these markets or whatever. Because even if you're a computer science major, I don't know who they're hiring, but they're not hiring the American kids. That's for sure. Because I know quite a few of them that don't have jobs in their fields
That's
that they
such a
went and got a
blanket
degree
statement,
for.
Miss G. That's such a blanket statement.
Why
They're
is it a
not.
blanket?
Oh no. I'm just saying they're not hiring. They're not hiring the Americans.
In computer sciences, I know
Hmm.
quite a few American kids that are computer science majors that cannot find a job.
Hmm. That's tough. That's tough. Let me ask you a question though. Do you think, before I go to Dylan, who's also Gen Z, do you think though that inflation and the housing market are really hitting 18 to 25-year-olds? I mean, is that really on their minds? Jax is
I
saying
I
yes,
know.
but go ahead.
Listen, I know. My oldest is 28, and I got a 26-year-old and a 20-year-old. They all think they'll never own a home. None of them
Mhm.
want children, except for still at some small percentage. My youngest does.
Mhm.
That's scary.
Well, I mean, yeah, no, I agree. It's no, definitely.
My kids outrightly say, I'm going to bring a kid into this world. How am I going to afford it? If I have one, what? Do I only have one?
Well, I mean, you can use the China policy, right, and just have one. And I mean, on top of that, if they only have one, Miss G, I mean, they do have to take care of you too. So, I mean,
You're going to do that. Shut up. I'm ending. I'm going to stop speaking now before it goes sideways with you.
okay, okay. Let me go to Dylan, and then Jax will come right back to you. I want to hit Scott and Kyle real quick while they're here. Dylan, good to see you tonight. Gen Z, you've been in here before. I know that you're conservative, Dylan, but what's the forecast? We have some other Gen Z people in here tonight. What's the forecast? I'm assuming things have gotten. I believe you're younger, but I think things have gotten tougher. You can just tell me. I have no idea what your life is like. Just go ahead and tell me, bud.
Well, crypto, you're totally right. Actually, my life definitely has gone tougher. I mean, my family's life has gone tougher. I mean, our insurance since Biden got in without any car crashes jumped up about $200-300. And I'm paying about $5,000 more for gasoline. It's just absolutely stupid. But the number one thing, and Miss G was hitting on it too. My generation, you want to know why some of these people don't want to have kids is because they don't know if they can afford to even have a kid in this country.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so damn expensive that like the child care costs, and then you add the cost of living to that. You add, I mean, taxes on taxes. It just it's just too insane to pay how much we're paying. And this is the reason why we need to get people who are actually willing to do the job in office the right way. Like, and it's really insane to me. Our country is literally falling apart right in front of us too. And I also, crypto. My first election that I voted in was the 2022 midterms,
Okay.
and I wanted to report to you all tonight that Congress there's a bill introduced today. It's called the Preventing Paramilitary Activity Act. And so this act would basically, they're trying to pass a bill that will end our constitutional right to organize a militia and will end the Declaration of Independence. This includes firearms, ammunition, patrolling areas. They're literally committing tyranny in plain sight and violating their sworn oaths to uphold the Constitution. So, I mean, we got to primary all these people, and it's truly insane. But crypto Jax made a lot of great points earlier when I was listening, and I appreciate him talking because a lot of those same things I've been saying in a lot of these spaces. But I appreciate you having me, crypto.
No, of course. Thanks, Dylan. No, go ahead, buddy. Go ahead.
Well, I just want to say hi to my space friends Kyle and Scott Pressler in here. They do fantastic work. So,
of course, man. Thanks. No, they are great, and we're about to go to them. So I'm looking at the. Let me see here, the Private Paramilitary Act filed by Jamie Raskin. That's all I had to read right there. I could have stopped right there. The preventing. So there's just a quote here up top. The Preventing Private Paramilitary Activity Act fills a gap in federal law by directly banning unauthorized private paramilitary activity and creating strong enforcement mechanisms to reinforce its prohibition. Kind of, I've heard about it, haven't looked into it. Kind of sounds like it's anti-2A, anti-militia, things like that. So,
exactly.
Yeah, and I think maybe before we go to Scott, Kyle, have you heard about Jamie Raskin's paramilitary act? He doesn't want you to join, Kyle.
I'm pretty sure he's is he a blood or is he a Crip? He's a Crip, right? Jamie Raskin.
That's so bad.
They're
But
kind of a paramilitary group, the Crips. I think here's the thing.
Oh, yeah,
He'd be a
absolutely.
Crip.
This is a
He's
bigger
Crip.
deal than it actually is being made out. Like in reality, there's no votes that are going to get this passed. That's part one. And the second thing is that there actually is an anti-militia law in almost every single state. I think Idaho, maybe Vermont. There's like one or two states that actually don't have any things on the books that say it. But essentially, all states sort of outlaw this sort of thing, and then nobody enforces it because it's sort of unenforceable. Mostly because there's not going to be any law enforcement officers that get together and go, you know what we're going to do? Let's go fuck up like 50 dudes who are walking around and patrolling on some big piece of property that are armed and wearing body armor and are set up with like their plate carriers and have been doing FTX or drills all day. Nobody's doing that. That's not happening. So this is like one of those things where it's like, they're going to go and try to raise money on it. Oh, I tried to stop the militias. It's some bullshit that's going on. And it makes for a great conservative talking point like, oh, they're trying to stop the militias. Is it really going to happen? No. Is there any reality to it? No. It's another one of these sort of like just posturing and then folding moves that you see all the time, which is what these people do. Like it's like somebody trying to talk about an assault weapons ban right now. Like you don't have the votes for that. It's not happening, and it's get knocked down in the face of what's going on in the courts. It's been pretty clear what the Supreme Court is saying about guns, and I think that would actually be a step further. Anyway, it's just, I mean, is it concerning? Yes, mostly because there's retards out there that are working in Congress. But I don't think the answer to it is that we panic about it. The answer to it is that you just dismiss them for being clowns, which he is, like I said, because he's a Crip, and that's a weird thing to do.
He's a Crip.
Is he not a Crip? Crypto, like you're an expert on crypto.
He's a Crip.
Can you tell me if he's a crypto? Is he a crypt?
No, we don't recognize him as a crypto guy. No, he's not a crypto guy.
What's up with him putting that thing on? Like he had, like who cares? Like you're a grown up. If you're bald and you have cancer, nobody needs you to wear a stupid do-rag. You look like a fool.
Does he still wear it now?
I don't know. He's not relevant.
Yeah,
but yes, no, he doesn't wear it anymore. Now he's fine. Now suddenly he has all of his hair back like 5 seconds later. Like, okay. I don't think he lost any hair at all. I think it was all bullshit.
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, it could have been a psyop again. Go ahead, Dylan.
Well, Kyle is actually absolutely correct, and Kyle, I do believe you, but I really I'm really just so worried about the direction of this country and where it's going. I just it's and also, by the way, Kyle. So in Illinois, when Pritzker tried to sign that assault weapons ban or whatever, which was so stupid, I think like I'm not really sure how much counties there were, but I know almost every county sheriff except around Chicago, like took that bill seriously. So they did not enforce that. But
It's the same thing in
that did
Colorado, by
happen.
the way. Like
Yeah.
nearly every single county sheriff has gone against and said the magazine restrictions are stupid. Like, here's the thing: the majority of America by territory is rural, which makes it the majority of America is conservative, but not by the dense, the densely populated areas. And there's actually a logic to that. So this is the thing that people, maybe if you're younger, that you don't really realize. The closer you live to your neighbors, the more you actually need a little bit of regulation because people do dumb things all the time. And so you actually require a little bit more government. You actually need a little bit more of that because your neighbor's going to do stupid things. And the alternative is that you solve the problems between the two of you, and that results in nothing good for the rest of society. So there is a need for more local level government, the more, population dense you live. That being said, what you'll also find is that you'll also be a lot more self-reliant and you'll feel a lot more comfortable when you get further out and further away from these population centers, mostly because your neighbors have enough room to breathe. They're not fighting over the same piece of the pie, and you're not going to be like rats scurrying around trying to get the last little crumb. So there's this major feeling that young people always run to cities. I know I did it. I know every other young person that I know that had any kind of instinct to do that. They run to cities because that's where stuff's going on and it looks super interesting and maybe you'll find a mate there. But then the first thing you do when you start having babies is you're like, I need to get the hell out of this dangerous, stupid city because everything here sucks and all the decisions are somebody else's decisions. And I don't want other people making decisions for me and my babies and the people that I need to be responsible for. And so as you get a little bit seasoned, then you start moving into that self-reliant mode. There's nothing wrong with that. Like that's as old as time. I mean, that's been going on forever. But what I will encourage you to, Dylan, and this is something I heard you say, and I just want you to think about it. I'm not telling you that you're wrong, you're right. But from where I'm sitting right now, one of the things you said was decidedly not conservative, and you don't even know it because you're living in a society that has been so indoctrinated by this idea. You said childcare. I heard you say the words childcare, which preassumes that you're going to make a mate and you're going to have a baby, and then you're going to need that female to go and get a job. And that is very different than any generation before. I think probably my generation was the first time when that started getting like pretty well accepted that that was going to be the case. It's people in their 40s, like their early and mid 40s kind of saw that happening. And I would suggest to you go read or at least read the back of and get the premise of the two income trap that Elizabeth Warren wrote of all people in 2002 when she was not a loony, although she wasn't great. Go figure out what that was all about and understand why that two income trap actually creates 2 points of failure, which both can leave you in absolute, a destitute situation. And if you understand what that is, then you start changing your mindset where childcare, one, it costs you a lot more. The opportunity cost there is massive. When you don't have your wife working, which is what goes on in our house, my wife and I, she has a master's degree. We paid a lot of money for it and we spent a bunch of money and she basically never recouped the cost of her education other than she's a better mother for it. I'm sure she's worldly and interesting and has lived in other places and has all these experiences. But the most important piece was is that she wanted to spend all that time, which she would otherwise spend on childcare and education. She's educating our kids. So just consider that that is something to take under advisement as you look into the world as you're young and you're looking out over what the opportunities look like. Because assuming that your spouse will work is actually the opposite of conservative, I think. And it's unfortunately, it's like internalized leftism. We've all kind of moved into that space where it's considered pretty standard. I don't think it's the best way to be.
Kyle, and actually, I absolutely agree with you. Um, I yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on that. So, I actually didn't think of that. Thank you for telling me that. I appreciate that, and I'll
All it
take that.
is, all it is, Dylan, it's a piece where we've accepted like this sort of there's a leftist idea that they've taken over the culture and they've taken over the language and even some of the points that we would even discuss. And I think that's a mistake. I think it's a mistake to cede that territory like that's the standard. Really, the history of first wave feminism was that women should basically be celebrated if they want to get a job or if they want to raise babies. And then they basically said, oh, well, that's going to be a real problem because eventually, like, we need more and more women in the workplace to just sort of delegitimize everything else. So the second and third wave of feminism were much shittier. The first idea, I don't care if women have jobs per se. But I'm just saying, if the assumption is that in a married couple and in a household that you default to the position that both people should have a job, it actually works against most of the things that you guys are really struggling with. And that's part of the reason why things are so expensive for your generation. That the only way that people are going to be successful is two successful individual earners coming together and creating like sort of like a super household. In the federal government, we call them like GS 28. So that's like, or GS, you know what I'm talking about, Crypto?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like two GS-14s that get married, and they both
Right.
are shitty people, and they're supervisors that have no skills, and they're the worst. They're the worst people to have. But unfortunately, that kind of sets the bar that they're the ones that are out there pricing out the housing market, and they are changing the price on things like childcare. And so, if you want to fight back about it, you just take yourself out of that market. Now you're not in the childcare market, and now maybe you can afford a house that's a little bit smaller, but you have less things to worry about. You only need one car, which my wife and I did that for like we've had one car for most of the time we've been married because it hasn't been necessary. We just figured it out. So anyway, just thoughts.
Thanks, Kyle. James, go ahead, buddy.
Real quick, I just wanted to add, do the math on two incomes. You'll find out that second income, you're only taking home 10 to 30% of the total income to even benefit the family. So you're trading away to get that extra 10 to 30%, all the time with your kids, all the hands-on life of just having a good time sometimes with those kids. Don't forget, you might have to add in housekeeping costs. That'll decrease that number because there's nobody there to take care of the household stuff, or you're overtaxing everybody. So it's a huge deal.
And
It
food
is a
prep.
real scam. Yeah, and I just wanted to add one more thing because Kyle's too young to know, but they've been trying to come after the assault weapons in the magazines since literally the 70s. Like we have been living this since the 70s, and it just never goes away. They just keep coming back to the trough for the same bullshit.
James, you know what's really funny though is that because of the last assault weapon ban, which expired like right after I got out of college, or when I was in college, I guess, when it expired, they basically did like the Harry Potter routine where they chose their enemy because nobody gave a shit about AR-15s until that point. And then people were like, "Oh shit, a whole decade where they said we couldn't have them." And then I remember getting my first AR-15 when I was like in 2005. I was, it was like game on. And since then, that market has exploded. It's created an opportunity for people to have probably the most it's probably the single most developed time in the firearms industry, and it didn't hurt that we had a war going on for 20 years. But we have moved so far forward with the development of both accessories and modernization of platforms. Like there were guns that hadn't been moved, and nobody had done anything on it. Like think about handguns. A lot of the technologies hadn't moved ever. You got people like Q out in New Hampshire right now that are legitimately like changing the game, and they're saying, why are we still always building only like Remington 700s and Mauser actions, which is just that's a 700 is a modern Mauser. Why haven't we moved some of the technology forward and reimagined how some of these things should work? And so they actually blew it. I think those assault weapon bans, they always backfire because these people they're linear thinkers, they're first order thinkers, and they never think of what the consequences are, which is the minute that thing sunsets, everybody's going to buy that shit and everybody's going to go like, well, we're never going to do that again. And then we've got engineering problems now, like guys making bump stocks or force reset triggers that are literally making the idea of an auto sear and a machine gun obsolete. You've got the pistol braces where people are doing that, where they've made the idea of a short barrel rifle obsolete. They're just going to be smarter than the laws because the laws were written in the 30s, and some other stupid stuff. And so we're just dealing with the natural consequences of stupidity. It'd be nice if we cleaned up the code, but at the end of the day, I feel pretty good that Americans are both innovative and they still have that spirit where it's kind of like, fuck you, you can't tell me that I can't own this. And the younger generation's jumping right into it too, because we've got smart and clever people that are working around like real problems that our laws have created. And they're going, no, not for me, not for this generation. We have more firearms freedom than we've had probably in 50 years.
Yeah, well, we did get Dobbs, and that was nice, and that's a Donald Trump. Scott, let me know if you have a chance to come up or not. I was going to talk to you about Gen Z voter outreach and things of that nature if you're available.
I need you to cover Tim Pool because that's the only reason I came up here. Crypto.
Well, I mean, listen, I spoke to Mark, and I watch your show. I watch Tim's show. And, as of now, it's kind of like a coin toss on who I'm going to watch and, who I'm going to watch on a certain night. You're at a different time frame, but if you really want to push the envelope, if you want to get me, you got to have Mark on more. I mean, you got to have him on every night.
Well, that's obviously the case, but let me just tell you what you just compared. You just compared a guy that is a single man band that literally like changes all of his scenes and develops all of the visuals on his own versus a dude who has a production team and lives in a weird commune and probably brings in between like 15 and $50,000 an episode and does it twice a day. So just so you know what you compared, I'll take that as a win.
Yeah, absolutely take that as a win. And I think, as I tear up papers here, I think if you put Mark on more often, I think then you may even get more of that win. But yeah, I mean, Tim is just raking in money. It's like when Alex Rosen goes out, which we're gonna have Alex Rosen on next week, regarding some pedo hunting and the fact that the Maine State Police doesn't like him too much. But yeah, you know, when Alex goes out, man, that chat is just running through with those little chip in donations, right? So no, it's great. And you know, super excited to see what you guys have in store. Miss G, you were having like a conniption. Is there something you wanted to say?
First of all, you left your mic open, so that I was trying to get your attention.
I don't give a shit. Turning it on,
sounded like
turning
you
it
were
off.
tearing up paper for your gerbil cage, and I was trying to figure out like,
Brutal.
what's going on
That's
with the
it,
gerbil.
right, Kyle?
Well,
Kyle, listen,
well,
actually, I wanted to address something you said to Dylan, or was it Jax? I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter.
it doesn't. It
point
really
being-
doesn't.
The point being is this, where you said and this, it doesn't apply in New York, I want you to know, where you live in more populated areas is where you need a little bit more state control and rules. However, where I live in New York City, they do the opposite. So all those youngins that are looking to run out their house and move to a large city, it usually is New York, and they are coming into the belly of the beast of violence and mayhem. I just want you to know that. But another point being what that Kyle said is this. I did the raising of the children. I stayed home. I gave up my career and I was doing well. But anyway, I gave it up. And it was a struggle in the beginning, not now. Luckily for me, us, this family, there is nothing more you could do for your family than to be there. You know, you cannot work a job, women, and take care of your children's needs the way they should be. When they need to do their homework or they have a project or just anything, we cannot be split in that many pieces. No one gets the proper attention. It just don't happen. Not your job, not your home, not your children, not yourself, not your marriage. It just don't happen. So the worst thing that we are doing is we're falling for this radical feminism that is out there, and it is destroying families. It is destroying children, because now you have women still popping out kids, but they ain't taking care of these kids. You know who's raising these kids? The corrupted school system that is teaching your kids, that is allowing the state to think it has the power to take over your parental rights. So, the best thing I can implore any of you women listening here today, teach your children that the most important thing in life is their family. The family unit is broken. You need to raise your kids, because if you're not there and you're not paying attention, I can tell you. And when I mean pay attention, that means be involved in the school. Talk with your kids. See what your kids are doing. You see, I'm one of those parents, I let my kids know. You live in my home. I am going to snoop. It's not snoop. You're my child. I am responsible for you until the day I die. So when I go in your room and I say, "What's this?" and I open up a drawer, whether you're there or not, if you don't like it, too bad. We are not their friends. We are their parents first. It is our job to protect, provide, and make sure we put out into the world responsible, productive, caring individuals that when we're gone will be able to stand on their feet and make it without us.
G, can
So
I ask you
yeah,
a
it
quick thing?
seems nice in theory. Oh, more money, more problems sometimes. Take care of your kids, build your family, take them out of the public school system. You know what? It's not that hard. If I could do it all over again, I do a lot of things different. And one thing I would do is I would homeschool and I would not vaccinate my kids. But that's just another story entirely.
Now
G,
but you
let me
know
run
what? The
something. Can I run
guys
something
need to
to
be
you?
spoken to by the men about this just as much as the women need to be
Well,
spoken
that's
to
not my
about the
job telling a
women.
man how to be a man. So
Well,
I
let me throw
didn't
this
tell
at both of you
that.
guys because I want to hear your take on it. My wife's pretty sharp cookie, and one of the things that she said, and this is something I have been digesting. She said it should be no surprise that there are now men pressing into women's spaces like women's locker rooms and women's sports when women have been pressing into men's spaces for the last 50 or 60 years. That kind of took me by surprise. As you guys probably know, my wife, she came from Brooklyn. She grew up in a pretty ultra lib household. And until very recently, that was her mindset. You know, she has a very soft science degree as a counselor, has a master's in that. So a lot of time in education, a lot of time in the Northeast, a lot of time in New York, and then went to Austin, which is no less lefty. But that's the thing that she's come to as a mother now that has 4 kids. An interesting thought. What do you guys think about that?
I totally agree. We are being taken over because basically, you know, not only did we allow them and we are allowing them, but women want to be men. Women, their goal coming up is I got to be, a VP, CEO. No, your job as a woman is to be the support system to the man and for her family. That is your job, ladies. And if you don't know it, now you know.
And the problem is, Kyle, is that the men, sorry guys, are not stepping into their roles either. As much as we women like myself, G, Taylor, some Rev, as so many of us in here, we are more traditional women. We want our own, we want to be in our own lane, so to speak. We want that traditional woman role, female role. The guys are living the single life, hopping girl to girl, whatever the case might be. They're not wanting commitment. They're not wanting to settle down,
But you know
so
why,
we
sweetie?
struggle. Let me just finish.
It's our
Right, I
generation that
don't
didn't teach
disagree,
their
girl. I
boys.
do not disagree. I'm just saying. So we struggle just as much because as much as we want to preach at women to do their job and be in their role, we are also finding that there are a lot of men that are not stepping into their role. And I'm sorry, guys, I love you all in here, so I'm not
Let
trying to
me
be
let
mean to
me
you all.
let me add to that, Sweet Pea, is no biologist here, okay? But my secondary education electives tell me that not every male is per se an alpha, or not even need to be an alpha, but a viable leader, a capable man. Okay. Otherwise, every woman would be attaching themselves to every available male. They're not. So there are extremely capable men. They're just, as nature, they're going to be less than the incapable. So I think there's plenty of them out. Well, I take that back, because they're out there. The question is, how many of them, and are they being sucked up and by women that recognize their value? But there are men that step up.
And I don't disagree with you, Mark. I'm just saying that it's a fault on both sides. G is really great about pointing out to the women what they need
But
to be
is it a
doing.
fault, or is it nature?
Well,
As I
maybe
guess
it's
my
nature. I'm
question.
just saying in general that you're seeing a breakdown of the family, but it's coming from both. It's not just one or the other.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but you're
think
missing my point. And my point being is if we really want to look down on something right now, and I'm sorry, but yeah, I'm going to say it to y'all, and I'm one of you. Gen Z dropped the ball. When we started handing out participation trophies and putting our kids in timeout instead of saying, listen, I'm just not one of those. I'm just not. I grew up in an Italian household. You got your ass whooped. You did not. And I will repeat it. You did not speak out. I was 21 years old. I said to my mother, "Bald," said the queen, "if I had them, I'd be king." With her long piano, bony ass fingers, she backhanded me in the mouth so quick my head spun. I'm sorry, but you are not your kid's friend. Stop coddling your kids. And our generation did it. So when you want to know why there's a
Miss
bunch of
G,
soft
Miss
men,
G, Miss G,
look where it's coming from.
Miss
It's the
G,
parents.
Miss G. Things were different in the 20s.
You know,
It's about time you got a
no,
handle on this room.
you
Miss
know.
G, come on. Listen. We all love the Model T, but
Jack,
it's gone
Jack,
now.
help me,
It's
Jack.
gone now.
Jack, you start
Gee,
with me,
gee,
I
Jack.
think
I've
she
been
has a
sitting here.
Studebaker.
Roan,
There's,
jump in for your girl, Roan.
No.
there's been so many
Don't let
open
it silly,
opportunities,
baby.
G,
Yeah.
that
Come
I
on.
let go by.
She's
Do you have
gonna
any
backhand
idea how
you.
hard it is to sit here with that little fucking yellow hand up? Hey,
Seriously.
Kyle, I just want to tell you something about self-reliance. I've been going to the potty by myself for like 6 years, dude. So don't talk to me about self-reliance.
It's really important that you learn how to hold it. It's also important that you know where to put it when you've been holding it long enough. So congratulations, we're really proud of you.
And please
Everybody
don't
that doesn't
sit.
have to everybody that doesn't have to sit next to you while you shit yourself in the subway or in your car or at the DMV is really proud. So I'll say that for
That's
everybody.
normal operating procedure, bro.
Standard. Yeah, good work.
So Jack, is that when you're wearing the scrotum shirt or when you're not wearing the scrotum t-shirt?
Either one's
Either
fine.
one? Okay.
Yeah,
I
it
got
doesn't really matter.
He's
it. I
telling you
got
that
it.
he's
Shit in the
not incontinent
subway,
either
shit in
way.
the subway, shit in the bed.
Got
Doesn't
it.
matter.
So I took a 5-minute break. I come back and it's Miss G hour. What happened, Mark?
Oh well, I was getting a feel of the space, and I'm gonna hit these hands. So thanks, Miss G. thanks for the social biology conversion here.
Can you,
Yes.
Crypto, can you tell me what this little icon is next to your name? There's a couple of you guys that got like a cool American flag. What's that about?
Yeah, so the sponsor of our space is up there. It's at Idea or Die, and you guys can click on that. And Idea or Die is it's a group of people that are conservative, and essentially the badge. I'm trying to think. It's
You're
not
not
like
very good at being sponsored. You're gonna have to get your pitch down better. Maybe Mark should do this one.
no. Well,
He's worse than me.
Well, Mark isn't a part of it, so
Well, where's the
and
ooh button?
yeah, where's the ooh button? So yeah, so Idea or Die, Kyle. If you click on it, you'll know what it says. But essentially, it's Miss G. I will drop your ass like a bad habit. Do not start with me tonight. But all right, I'm gonna have to mute everyone now except Mark. So yes, Kyle, it is a group cult like people. Oh my god, he had the 5-second delay on. Man, he got me on that one. I wonder if he can do it now. I guess not. So Kyle, it's a group of like-minded individuals that are conservative, and we have our own little group, man. We have our badge, and we go out there and we try to get people like you to talk about it and come join this amazing movement of conservative men and women that are patriots. And listen, Tim Pool's about to sign on, so if you want to do it, you may have to act sooner than later because we already know he's kind of ahead of you.
We don't need no stinking badges.
That is incredibly so loud. What is Kyle playing? I can't even unmute because it just goes to like a raging ocean.
Yeah,
it's
if
gone.
that's people clapping, it was
No,
rough.
definitely wasn't people. I mean, maybe that's his soundboard. Maybe that's why I watch Tim Pool more often. Kyle, was that your soundboard?
I'm just gonna
playing
make
with
the sound
soundboard on the
instead.
stupid thing. This is a Twitter soundboard.
Hold on. Here we go. You know what?
There's a lightning storm.
We're bringing up our sponsor. Oh my god, dude, that's
Brutal.
so loud on the headphones. It's so brutal on the headphones. All right, Kyle, you asked for it, and Idea is up here.
Thanks, Crypto. That was an awesome intro.
Thank you. There he is.
He's your new spokesperson.
So
there
I'll
he
just
is.
give you a quick rundown. Idea's very new. It's kind of evolving quickly. What it started out as is basically an assembly of creators that are conservative. I kind of extended it to brands that are conservative, patriotic, and I'm hoping to actually work with candidates as well. The whole idea is to build a broad network with diverse resources, and we all kind of work together, just like this, like we're doing now, where we're utilizing crypto's space to bring awareness to political projects that are in our interest, and hopefully have an impact this year. That's it. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, idea. Much appreciated. Michael Dean, are you up or not? Because you just texted me Florida, Kentucky OT. So that's interesting. Thanks for that. So steak for breakfast. Are you there tonight, sir?
I am here, Crypto.
Let me go to you real quick before I go back over to Goldberg and Jax. What is the next podcast coming up, and who do you have?
Oh, the next podcast is going to be Friday. We've got a 5-banger of congressional Congress people, I guess you can call them.
Five banger. Oof. Is AOC in there?
No, close though. We got the Based America First version of her. Anna Paulina Luna will be joining us.
Oh, awesome.
Matt Gaetz, Eli Crane, Troy Nels, and Bob Good. So we're going to get all flavors, everything from the Freedom Caucus to the America Firsters and everything in between. And congressional candidate Sandy Smith, who's running in NC1. She's been one of our favorites for the last couple election cycles. We're hoping to get her up on Capitol Hill as well.
Awesome. Is there a chance you could ever get Don Bacon on there so I can come on and yell at him?
Oh, man. That would be an interesting interview. Although we did have a couple people from the DeSantis train come through. And, it was always a very civil conversation until we got towards the end, and I wanted to talk about poll numbers. They never were much to. Ken Cuccinelli was definitely to hear him do the verbal acrobat to try and get around what the poll numbers looked like, and this was like 3 months ago. It was very interesting.
Wow. When I said wow, I apologize. I don't know if this is true or not. Not even going to say it, but I'll send a DM to you guys on Joma. Mark Joma just put out a tweet.
Wow. Uh-oh.
Yeah, it's good.
Sweet Pea goes. That means deadly. It's pretty deadly. I don't know if it's true, and considering what I would say about a person and the possible charges they'd be facing, I'm just not going to repeat it while we're recording. So not going to happen.
Let me go check it out. Sounds exciting.
I'll send it over.
True. Big if true.
That is true. Big if true. Let me go over to Goldberg. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, thanks, Crypto and James. Right before I sign off, guys, I'm going to go to bed here soon. I would just like to say that I think 2024 is the scariest election probably for your guys' lifetime and certainly for mine. If this doesn't go our way, I would have to believe that I would be probably sent off to war, unfortunately. But also, if it does come out in our outcome, I see nothing but greatness coming towards our country. I mean, our slogan, Make America Great Again, I think that dream's going to become reality. So something I keep preaching to my generation and to others just on X is keep hopes alive and keep preaching the good word out to people. And it's amazing having this platform, being able to reach out to other conservative patriots and being able just to share ideas together. I think this is the first step towards the right path.
And thanks for the invite, absolutely. Goldberg, by the way. Goldberg including in. Thank you.
Goldberg gave you the thumb up. So Miss S, silence do better. Good to see you tonight.
Hey, thanks.
Of course. Let me head over to Jax and then Kevin. You've been quiet with nothing funny for a little bit. I'm kind of worried.
Yeah, Miss G is kind of holding it down for me. There's only one downstate New Yorker that can do it at once. So I figure I'd let her burn out, and then I'll come in.
Well, hold on. I thought that Miss G was definitely in Long Island.
She is.
Long Island.
It's still downstate.
Got it. Okay.
It is Long Island. I'll pull up the map.
It is not.
Put the map up again.
I'm not on that island. I'm from Brooklyn. Brooklyn isn't a part of Long Island.
Here we go.
The other island.
What bridge or tunnel do I have to get over to get to Brooklyn?
Yeah, she's not going to answer that.
Wait a minute. So there's a little bridge to get into Far Rockaway.
I didn't make Far Rock.
Huh?
I didn't say Far Rockaway.
Pardon?
What is he stuttering? He didn't ask about Far Rockaway.
Doesn't matter.
It does matter. The question wasn't non-responsive. Nobody wants to hear about it.
All right, I'm getting the map.
Get the map, Kevin.
Take your map, Kev.
Miss
Take
G.
your map and
Listen.
stick it where the sun don't shine, because you're not part of New York City. Don't be butthurt, but you're not.
Nobody wants to be part of New York City. You
Look,
got rats and
don't be
disgusting
jealous
shit.
of our
Listen,
driveways.
mister, I was born in Brooklyn. Shut up, Crypto.
I was born in
jealous that we all
Queens.
have driveways.
I feel a fuck face coming on.
Yeah, fuck face.
I'm trying to hold it back.
All right, let me go. Let me see. I came.
Hey,
See
I
where the
just
hands
I
are.
just tell you real quick. I saw that Joe Ma tweet, and I just reached out to the subject matter and asked him if he can confirm or deny. You know,
the
that is
person
him.
in the tweet. He's not going to confirm or deny.
He
What?
might. He
No,
might.
that
he might. You gotta do your job. You gotta ask. You gotta
You know,
ask.
I want to know how in the fuck you're not blocked, Mark.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
invite him
asked.
in. Invite him in.
Well, let's see if he gets back to me, and then it's okay.
You want me to invite him in? I'll invite him in.
Invite him in. He's not coming anyway.
Okay.
That's fine. Jack's good, buddy.
I'll say it wouldn't surprise me with how liberal he is, but okay. But what I do want to state is to what Kyle stated. My generation, I do believe we will resurrect the Second Amendment in this country. I myself, I'm a gun owner. I'm a gun collector, so I take it a little further than gun owners. But
Are you a gun owner collector like Alec Baldwin?
No, I am very responsible.
Good for you. Good for you. Because Mark's a big fan of Alec Baldwin. I just want to put that on the record.
Well, yeah. So I've been for the past 2 years taking people out. I've been even though it's not something I like.
Hold on, Jax. We
You're
need to clear
taking
that up.
people out?
Yeah,
You should
hold
use
on.
different
Hold on.
language.
No.
Taking people out
You
or
cut
taking
me
them
off
out
at
to
the
the
wrong
range.
time.
Phrasing.
Allegedly.
So I've been taking Gen Z to the range.
Good stuff. We like that.
And I've been showing them firearms, but more so to the point, we need to end the NFA, legalize suppressors and machine guns, and hopefully everyone in the space is supporting Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, or any of these groups that are fighting for our freedoms. Other than that, I'm quite sick, but thank you for taking time to talk about Gen Z crypto, and I need to go get some sleep.
Of course. No, go ahead, buddy. Thank you, Jackson. Goldberg, are you here or did you drop? I apologize. I left for a little bit. Goldberg, thank you for coming in tonight as well. It was a pleasure to have the Colonel on, and we're not done yet, but we're going to be wrapping up soon. But it was great to have Colonel on. Great to have Jax, Gen Z. Dylan, I'll bring you back up because we are talking about Gen Z tonight, and you are Gen Z. Let me go to James, and then I'm going to hop down to Michael Dean. And just for purposes here, according to my computer, it's 92-87 Florida Gators over the number 10 Kentucky Wildcats. So it looks like we may have found this blind squirrel may have found a nut, Michael Dean. James, go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I guess speaking of blind squirrels, I want to make a very counterintuitive point about Gen Z. The thing that the millennials really screwed up with Gen Z is they kept trying to force down their throats this idea of otherisms. And the very embracement of otherism is causing Gen Z to tell the millennials to go fuck themselves. I know it's counterintuitive, but you really have to look at this as like, you see these people that all want to be, I'm known as an id now, literally saying, well, you can't define for me what an id is. So now I'm going to do this and screw you and your group and all that. So it's actually helping us in the long run with Gen Z. I know it's counterintuitive, but it's actually happening.
Hey, Crypto, is John
Far
Fetterman
away.
getting a divorce or is he going on date night? What's up?
I don't know. I can tell you that I'm currently sliding into Giselle's DMs. So if she responds back, I'll let you know. But yeah, look, the guy either changed bodies, it's a new person, he got another illness, and now listen, he's more Republican, he's more conservative than half of the fucking senators we have.
What if he brought
Elon hooked him up to the Neuralink as a test, and he came out conservative.
I know.
I think it's possible that he just brought that woman to heel. I just posted date night up there in the nest. You guys should be able to see. He looks pretty big. He looks beefy, and I think he told her, "Put on some clothes. I'm sick of the cleavage and all the pictures on Twitter."
Oh my
and
God! Look
delete
what he's
your social
wearing.
media because you suck. I'm in charge. What do you think?
I think, Kyle, we all need to get this tuxedo hoodie. I'm digging it. I mean,
Wait,
what?
are you trying to tell me you do not have a tuxedo hoodie?
Right?
Yo,
I know.
Yo,
So
you better watch out. Giselle definitely beats him. So if you're sliding in her DMs
I
and
think
she answers,
maybe she
she's gonna
did
try
beat
to,
him.
she's
Yeah,
gonna
I
put
That's
think
the
those
over.
burner
days
on
are
him.
over. I
Yeah, that's over,
think that's what we're saying, Kevin. I think he's just
Right.
decided to regain the helm. Look,
he's
he
up
rope-a-doped
on
her for
roofs of
however long.
buildings waving the Israeli flag,
he
Kevin.
he rope-a-doped her.
Yeah,
Yo,
He
look,
just let her wear her little heart out. She was getting all her liberal little hearts out, and then now he's
Hey,
like, "All right, now I'm in charge. Shut up."
whatever you think of John
crypto.
Fetterman, he's hilarious.
He is.
Agreed.
Crypto. That reminds
Yeah.
me of that reminds me actually. That sweatshirt reminds me of like one time I saw a car. There was like a bunch of teenagers in it. They took all the doors off the car and got a marker and wrote Jeep all over it. And that's what that kind of sweatshirt reminds me of.
Yeah, no, that is great. I am currently looking out there, and they do have a lot of them. Lots of stuff here. So yeah,
And I
interesting.
just want to say the map of Long Island is in the nest.
Thank you, sir.
So feel
Thank
free
you.
to look at how Brooklyn and Queens are connected to Long Island. There are no bridges, there are no waterways. So
I'm
Thank you.
rolling my eyes.
Excellent research, Kevin.
You are a gentleman and a scholar. We all appreciate it, Kevin.
That is my understanding of that island, Kevin.
And Mark knows that I am pinpoint on geography. So if there's anything you need me, I am dead on balls accurate on this stuff.
I tell him, guys, it's kind of it's amazing. Very smart man, and his comprehension of geography is so unique that I tell him,
It is unique.
I tell him, do not educate yourself. Don't look at a map. It is so unique. It is so incredible. Just be as you are. It's that.
Yeah. And I have a map in my office and at home and at work, so I obviously don't fucking look at it. But it's a world map though. So.
Good. I hope it's a
Yeah.
geographic one, so you don't see the lines of the states and everything. So here's what I'm
Mark,
gonna do.
would crypto would he be an officer? The sort of like you can't spell lost without the LT. Would he have been an officer?
I don't know what that means, but it doesn't sound good.
Let me say this. I don't think he has a problem navigating per se. I think he has no Well, look, here's what I'm gonna do. I'll put it this way, Kyle.
If you're walking straight, you're going north, right?
when
it's pronounced true north, crypto.
Right, true north.
Right. So
not magnetic north if you're walking.
Or grid. Yeah. So we're like, so this is so funny. What I want to do next time Crypto and
Does
I
he
are
own
together.
a protractor? Not to derail you, but does he have a protractor where he can plot this?
He does not know about protractors.
Pocket protector?
Of course I know about protractors.
Not
I don't have
you know how to
one.
use them on a map, crypto?
Of course I don't.
How many?
No,
and you
I
shoot
don't.
an azimuth. What's going on here?
A protractor is not a erector set you had when you were 7.
Right. No, but
he's confusing it with a compass, which had the pointy things on it, which he liked because he could poke himself in the fingers.
Okay, so hold on. While you guys bash me real quick, Michael Dean, is it over 94-91? I can't tell.
2 seconds left. They're up by 3, and I think they're about to get the ball floored out of bounds.
There's a sports ball that's happening, and someone is about to be victorious. That's very exciting.
What
victory will this be?
There's a sports ball, and someone scored more points than the other.
I take it back, Crypto. 2 seconds left, down by up by 3. Hang on. They tried a free throw. It's over.
Okay,
congratulations.
The goal units were not scored, and some team is no longer going to have the opportunity. What sports ball is this?
Real quick, before we get out of here, can we have the focal point of the most recent J6 bomber escapade, speak about that before we get out of here, Crypto? At some point.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
That would be Mr. Seraphin.
It's fucking Kyle, dude. Did you miss the whole story that they pulled him off the case? And like he was ready to find this guy fucking 18 years ago, but the fucking FBI said, "No, we don't want to find the pipe bomber." Like he's the focal point of the story.
Oh my god, I missed it. Where is this story? Hold on,
All right, before we go to pipe bomber,
Kyle, come on.
I want to tell you guys. I'll leave this alone.
Kyle, you're so modest.
We
no,
next
he's
time
not.
I am with fuck it, forget it.
Jesus Christ, let Mark finish. Let Mark finish.
Mark's like,
too late now.
It's done.
Sense. You guys
it's done.
Brain
Mark,
it. So
Mark,
done.
Mark is like a squirrel. If you interrupt him more
Jesus.
than twice, it's done.
Oh yeah. All right, Crypto.
It's done. It wasn't me interrupting. You don't give me shit.
No. I'm not giving you shit. I'm
Let
not.
me help
He's
you, Marco,
he's
because it was
holding
kind
it
of me.
against you
It was
right now. I know that tone.
protractor, due
Yeah,
north,
we're all for that.
directions.
But the time has passed. He's not going to do
Yeah,
it.
it's long past that. Okay.
All right. Well, anyway, moving on. Let's go to Paul while I find this Kyle Seraphin tweet that I need to read up on.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you, Crypto, because now my daughter's mad at me and walked away again. So typical.
Why? Why'd you walk?
Oh, what happened?
What the fuck? Why is everyone shitting on me the last 5 minutes?
Yeah,
What did I
and
do?
also, Paul, I have an issue here. Okay, she has these issues about our country, and the number one issue isn't the fucking border, which is your career.
She's 19. It's not affecting her. Not that she knows of.
No, it's definitely affecting her. That's why she can't get a decent entry level job.
Speak? Did we
Come
have
on.
his daughter on?
No. His daughter
No,
was
he wouldn't
talk.
talk to you guys.
She was talking
Oh.
to Paul. Paul was talking. We were talking back, and apparently, like, what, we started at 8. 2.5 hours later, I pissed her off. I mean, I would have thought I pissed her off back at 8:00.
Oh no, I finished it off for you, buddy. I mean, we went back and forth and round and round while you guys were talking about other stuff. Well done.
Okay. Well,
talk about her.
yes.
Did her dirty bedroom come out?
Well, you're
They're
being
not
a good
doing the dishes.
Yeah, Paul, you're being a good father. So you know,
hang in there, man.
You
James,
take the car keys.
the car keys. James,
It wasn't that bad, Jack. Come on now.
Yeah, you can't be taking the car keys
check
from
her phone,
19-year-olds.
Check her phone.
Not at 19. I don't know. What's the ruling on
that's
that?
Gonna be hard to grab.
Yeah. What's the ruling on that one?
That phone's lost. It's over. Don't even check it.
If you pay for it, it's yours. That's what I always say. Since she don't pay for it, it ain't hers.
That is true too. James,
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a heads up, Crypto, that you may have trouble finding the Kyle Seraphin story because universally, every media outlet that I saw on our side or the other side very explicitly ignored the fact that his name was Kyle Seraphin. They just said the whistleblower or a whistleblower. It was kind of bizarre since Kyle has testified before Congress, been all over the fucking media, does his own podcast, is a very publicly facing figure, that everybody kind of ignored the fact that his name was Kyle Seraphin in the story. So that's why Michael was saying the center focal point of the story, though, is Kyle. That he was the agent, pulled the fucking case, so to speak, to go answer fucking dumbass tip phone lines about how their neighbor was fucking burying a Trump flag while they were looking for the fucking pipe bomber. It's a bizarre thing that these people did, on top of the fact that we're finding out these were training munitions, and it was a Capitol police officer who made the initial find. And like, all this stuff is being hidden. Why? You have to ask that question. Why are they ignoring that Kyle's the guy?
That kind of citation wouldn't pass 13th grade. I'm talking community college. That's sad. That shit would get kicked back.
Can anyone send me the Kyle Seraphin
Yeah,
story?
Kyle, who's best? You mentioned Baker, Steve Baker, and also I think Becker.
Kyle says he loves himself some Steve Baker. I mean, he even said it himself.
Steve Baker's one. And the other big one that's come out, which was, I think, in part because of Kyle's space with Massey, he can speak upon this, but Massey finally did some investigation into it, and supposedly, this possible alleged J6 bomber person has a connection and or was a government contractor that worked in munitions. You know the word I'm trying to say. Yeah.
You are close enough, Michael. We all know. It's okay. I'm looking at this thing, by the way, guys, of the person we're not talking about, and it appears that this is a 2020 registration date. So this would be a charge and conviction of from November of 2020. Just a heads up, this is not new. It may be new here,
I said,
but the conviction date was in 2020 in Georgia.
Yeah, I'll just to give you this is what I said, because I try to keep it pro, as they say. I said, hey Tim, This is getting some attention.
We could drop the name though. That'd be good.
It's his first name.
Okay.
Look. We already said where it is. I said, "Hey Tim, this is getting some attention. Can you confirm or deny this conviction? Thanks, Mark." So we'll see what happens. But it's okay. I think that's fair. That's a fair question and appropriate professionalism from a journalist to.
Yeah, it is. I just don't know how they would match this up because the guy's name here is completely different. So no idea.
Yeah, you got to ask.
No idea how it came about. Well, I look forward to reading this. Kyle, do you want to say anything about this story while we're here, or should I just read about it?
I don't know. What do you want to know about it?
I don't know anything about it.
This is a space where I've seen Cliff in. I feel like you could just wing it, and that's what he would do. What would Cliff do?
He'd read the headline.
And then have strong opinions.
Right.
Would he really read the headline?
Yeah, all based on his feeling.
Yeah. And then say he doesn't really care about the situation.
And he'd say his opinion is not feeling.
Cliff, if you want to come up, you can now come up.
Before he comes up, hey, Crypto, can I ask you real quick to check your DM at some point? It's important.
How important can this be?
It's important for something coming up for somebody important.
Do I check a DM from you or the group
yesterday.
DM?
No, I'm not in your group DM personally.
You're not in the fuck around and find out
that one.
bullpen?
No, I can't. I didn't send it there. It's because it needs to. It's a surprise.
Yeah, it's literally
check your DM.
called. I don't check my DMs.
I know, but it's important.
All right, Jesus.
Thank you. And I'll second the Steve Baker interview was probably one of the best I ever heard.
This is exactly why I didn't marry you, Sweet Pea.
I didn't want you to. It's okay.
No, you asked.
I really didn't.
No, you did, and I told you that.
Because you're too young for me.
No, I did, and I said, listen.
Sorry.
I said you're too needy, and I'm with scrotum. There was a whole thing. There was a
whole
whole thing.
Scrotum, I can question things.
And with a cat? I'm just finding this out now?
Scrotum is with you. I'm a little concerned.
He is with me. He is with me. And Jack put out a great tweet today, by the way, where Scrotum was
on the wheel.
Yeah, where Scrotum was running on the wheel. That cat just puts in 24/7 work.
He keeps it tight.
Well, he does because he's a drug dealer. So Paul put on an absolutely amazing piece of evidence. Cliff and Michael shit the bed at the trial, and I had 3 jurors that fell asleep. Yeah, and that was our trial.
Crypto.
So,
Let me pivot real quickly. Do you think that wearing a pair of glasses is an appropriate disguise to hide yourself, a la Clark Kent, Superman, a la James O'Keefe and gay James O'Keefe?
No.
Apparently.
Well, right. Apparently, yes, but I don't think so. Like when I see James O'Keefe with the glasses, I'm still seeing James O'Keefe.
No, he looks like your Grindr date. That's what he looks like. Come on, dude.
Okay, well, first off, all of my Grindr dates have beards, Kyle. All right, so
smart.
You like the manly men.
Yes, and I will say, Kyle, they have sufficient beards, not these chin straps you have. All right.
You look like the dude who ate all those guys in Chicago. Who was that guy? That killer?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. The guy ate the homos.
Why are we taking
shots
of my beard? What's going on here?
Don't be talking about Dahmer like that.
He looked like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Jeffrey Dahmer. Well, actually, I could see it now that you mentioned it. I can kind of see it. All right. Well, the shit hits
a really strange turn. I just want to throw that out there. That was extremely strange.
That's what I'm good for.
No, he is. You know what? Jack has taken over, Mark, for Charles the Whisperer.
Is that the? Well, I gotta be careful how I mention him. Is that the?
Nobody's ever accused me of being a whisperer.
No, he was.
He would pop in like this and say something, and then pop out.
Right. He was the guy that you called the sniper that would just be up here and just talk real quick and make a statement.
Yeah. Where's our Charles? I thought I was thinking.
I don't know.
I was thinking the other guy. Yeah.
I don't know the other. Yeah, no, I don't know where Charles is, but
that guy. His timing, his delivery. Perfect. He was deadly. He was a deadly space sniper. I had a lot of respect for his. We told him we gave him blanket clearance. We said, bro, you're autonomous. Do whatever you want in here. I don't think we did that to anybody else ever.
No,
well, Kyle was always my hero, and then he had that baby, and I think it sucked some of the life out of him.
Mm-hmm. Well, that'll do it. I mean, I think Kyle's single-handedly trying to outbreed the migrants. So, He's got a lot of work on his
He's
hands.
busy.
Yeah, he's
Busy
he's
guy.
A worthy,
he's
a
a,
worthy
That's a
endeavor.
two-person job for the record. Just for those of you that don't know how it works, just in case, for the young audience.
he's doing it for America. With that said, guys,
We have to outbreed him, Crypto. So you're right.
with that said, let me head over to Mark or James if they have any comments, and we're gonna wrap and go from there. And then, by the way, Sweet Pea, for fuck's sake, I'm not checking my
Do not
DM right
forget.
now.
It's very important.
Oh my god.
We'll understand when you see it.
I'm gonna drop you down in a second. I
That's
don't want to
fine.
end.
Drop
I
me
don't want to.
down.
I don't want. Sweet Pea, I don't want to do it. You're go. This is like a domestic situation. You're going to make me do it, Sweet Pea.
It's
You're
okay.
gonna make me
If
do
you
it.
need to and it makes you feel better,
Oh
that's
my
fine.
god! No, it doesn't make me feel better. I'm gonna
It's like,
feel
what do all
worse.
battered women have in common? They just don't listen.
Oh my god! You're gonna make me. I'm joking. Anyway, before we go to Mark and James, follow, of course, James, Mark, and I'm going to say Kyle only because he's brought on Mark. Otherwise, I would say fuck Kyle and don't follow him. But since Mark is going to be an amazing part of an amazing show already, follow Kyle, check out his podcast. Mark is going to be on it. I don't know to what extent, but they're going to disclose that. I have seen that they're going to do some live stuff, and Mark's going to be at places on the ground, so it's going to be great. So give that a check. And of course, next time, Scott, I'll get to you sooner. I apologize. I definitely want to talk to you about Gen Z and the voting. So please do come back. You're in here a lot, so I definitely want to get your take next time. I apologize for not getting to you prior. But with that said, Mark and James, any comments that you want to make, and then I'm going to wrap.
Yeah, thanks. First, sorry for my lateness tonight, guys. I appreciate the support. I had several things pop off and had to deal with them. So, and I hated missing, the first half. You will. Anyway,
The full bird was on point, man.
Was he?
Yeah, the full bird was firing. Colonel was firing on all cylinders. He was wound up and just going.
Man, I missed it. I'll never. I say never get that. I'll have that opportunity again, but I missed this one, so we'll have to do it
for
again.
For a low fee of $5.99. I can replay the space for you.
Okay. So, but busy week. But here's the good news: is the schedule and my obligations are definitely going to open up next week and hopefully continue that way because I am going in the field for Kyle Seraphin, really is for you guys, and looking forward to it. I just we have 90+% of the gear in now, and I'm going to talk to Kyle and make sure that sort of do a functions check with everything that may or may not be posted Friday, to be determined. But regardless, there will be a functions check Friday, and you can pretty much expect that we will be ready next week for the cool stuff that pops off and bring it to you live and bring it to you accurate. So thank you, everyone, and thanks, Crypto.
Of course, buddy. James?
I would just say thanks to everybody for being here. Tell Mark he needs to. I think Kyle said his podcast is #1 in Kenya, and I think that's the country we got to learn all those pops and clicks. So you're gonna have to get your Swahili down for that show. But apparently it's #1 in Africa. So good luck, good job. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being here.
Cool. And Paul, you have your hand up, bud, before we go?
Yeah, I had a quick question for Mark because I know he missed most of the Colonel, and I just wanted to know how much the DEI infusion into the military is just fucking his job all up and ruining his training. But we could always ask.
Jesus.
Yeah, well, I'll give you the short answer. When post J6, when they were looking for all the extremists that apparently some rando somewhere with some qualifying figure said that it's a big problem. Despite at that point, I think I was in 16 years at that time, and we never seen the problem. Anyway, I remember I was one of the last guys to do my mandatory quote stand down training, and I did it online because I was at the time.
I knew it. I knew there was a stand down training.
I did the stand down. It was
I knew
the DOD stand down. We were like, it was the first time we ever heard. We're like, what does that mean? And like, well, it's a stand down. I'm like, yeah, but what does that mean? So I did that training. It was online, and let me tell you, if the way that everyone was looking at, because mandatory reporting of anybody that might be potentially connected to or a known associate of white supremacy, extremism. Geez, well, you put that language together, and it's anybody. So it was weird times. Since then, it is definitely. It's not as bad as the further we move from the horrific, unprecedented times of J6. But don't forget, when the National Guard responded, that I'm confident, could be wrong, but I'm confident that's the largest mobilization of National Guard in U.S. history to one location for one mission. And there were guardsmen who had their social media checked, scrubbed, and were sent home. They weren't discharged. They weren't disciplined. They were kicked off the mission. That's kind of weird, especially in National Guard history. Very, very weird. So it was weird times. I would say that it's getting better, but I just don't know how it could have got worse. So that's all I got.
All right, brother. Thanks. I want to thank ID or Die and everyone else who came in from the group tonight. It was a pleasure. And we will see what the weekend holds. I'll talk to Mark. But I do know our next confirmed space is Alex Rosen regarding his catching of pedophiles and possibly the Maine State Police coming in to that space as well. We're in contact with them, so we'll see if they come in. So with that being said, everyone have a great night, and we'll talk to you soon.